Chapter 538. In the next second, Harry Ball led the sprites toward the army of divine beasts. Bloodline Bond. Harry Ball activated his skill and took the lead to rush into the army of divine beasts. The black and green dragons opened a path for him. The battle between the divine beasts was particularly fierce, especially when the sky-swallowing beasts were known for their cruelty. Red flames, black flames, ice, fire, and wind spirits, blood, and roars filled the battlefield. However, the battlefield of divine beasts was not the focus of this battle. The real focus was still on the man in red in the middle of the battlefield of divine beasts. Kill him. A roar like a bolt from the blue rang out. Big Dipper sword art, falling stars, furious sword art, third slash of sorrow. Countless flying swords, the lowest of which was at the immortal level, shot toward the red figure in the middle. Buddha's seal attack change. Buddha slaughters the heavens, instant enlightenment. True 9 words mantra. Array word soul destruction rune. Cold poison bone-shattering needles. Chaotic rain. Taoist talismans, Dharma seals, poisonous weapons, and hidden weapons all came at him. In the distance, countless flying arrows and firearms came at him in an instant. Paralysis missile. Rapid illusionary arrow. 21 consecutive shots. Countless skills from the divine beasts bombarded the red figure in a frenzy. Originally, there were countless barriers around him, and Lu Chun had so many negative statuses on him that they could not see them clearly. At this moment, a huge amount of damage floated above Lu Chen's head. The words were in different colors, indicating that the number of damage attributes was beyond people's imagination. Suo Wang's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. That kid could kill the 9-clawed black dragon, but the combined power of these divine beasts was too amazing. Even the 9-clawed dragon emperor could not withstand it, although their barriers were not as powerful as those in the forbidden land of the dragon clan. For 100 of them could almost destroy Lu Chun. My heavens, it's over. This attack can't be blocked by anyone. The hearts of the human spectators had already turned cold. There are too many types of attacks, and with so many negative statuses in the barriers, I'm afraid even an immortal can't withstand it. Lady May was not in the mood to care about other things, but she felt a sharp pain in her hand. She came back to her senses and looked at her hands. Frost Dance's nails had already sunk deep into her palms. Xuan Wu. Mingyang couldn't bear to wake Xuan Wu up. She was so nervous that she had forgotten about her existence. With 400 layers of enchantments, Lu Chun, who was as strong as a god level 6, was still unable to withstand a single blow. His maximum HP was reduced from 20 million to only 4 million. After a large amount of damage appeared above his head, he was instantly cleared. Heavily injured, Lu Chun spat out a mouthful of blood, his body trembling. This kind of fatal blow, under the condition of full pain, as long as one was still human, it would be difficult to bear. Moreover, this included a large number of physical attack skills. That brat still has 2 lives. Is he waiting to be revived? Bashan asked nervously. Dongfang Ji frowned deeply. If he was in such an environment, would it be possible for him to win? There was probably no chance at all. In the principle of overlaying barriers, if there were more barriers, the effects of the same attribute would be weakened. The more barriers there were, the weaker the effects of the same attribute would be. In other words, even if these 400 barriers had the effect of reducing one's maximum HP by 10% each, after 400 barriers were overlaid, it would not be as simple as 4,000%. It might only be 80 to 90%. This was also the reason why Lu Chun was left with 4 million HP despite having 20 million HP. Even so, the terrifying thing about 400 barriers was that they had reduced Lu Chun's strength in all aspects. Regardless of whether it was his attributes, attack, speed, skill cooldown, resistance, etc., they were all greatly reduced. Even if some debuffs could be removed after being revived, as long as he was revived, he would still exist within the barrier. Then, when he was revived, he would still be affected by the barrier. This was the strength of the barrier. As long as he was within the barrier, he would be affected. However, Dongfang Ji did not tell Bashan this news. If he did, that guy would probably collapse. Then, he would leave him with some hope. However, Kingdom Protector Chiofeng suddenly exclaimed, Wait, why isn't that guy dead? Everyone quickly turned their attention to the battlefield. Solipsistic's HP was already as black as it could get. However, upon closer inspection, they found that he had less than 100 HP left. 100 HP was almost negligible compared to 4 million HP. However, he only had 100 HP left, and this 100 HP was the difference between being dead and not being dead. A passive skill to protect the owner? Continue attacking. The heavenly demon elites quickly thought of this possibility and immediately took the corresponding measures. After all, experts were experienced and knowledgeable. It was not as if they had never seen skills to protect their owner before. Unfortunately, they were mistaken. Lu Chun, who had not made a move all this time, finally raised his head. The green light in his eyes was about to burst out of his body. Every time his head moved, a green mark would be left on the side of his eyes. Sorry, this is not a skill to protect your owner. This is your death knell. Okay, now it's my turn. After saying that, Lu Chun grabbed Ultimate Sword. Celestial Demon Mixed Element Barrier. Celestial Demon Walk. Dragon's Blood Boil. I will grant you relief. Infinite Grace Release. Suddenly, the red figure disappeared from the spot. Immediately after, at the far end of the battlefield, an archer screamed. When everyone turned to look at the source of the sound, they saw that the archer's 32 HP had been cleared twice. Although it was done twice, and he had activated the Guardian's passive skill to protect his owner in one of the 2 times, he still could not hold on for more than a second and was instantly killed. With a crisp sound, a barrier was shattered in the battlefield. Even the heavenly fate of the mutated race could not be killed instantly. This guy has a barrier too? North Snow Lingjuan's eyes widened. During the battle with North Snow Gufei, he had not used this skill. Dongfang Ji narrowed his eyes slightly. Solipsistic's combat power is the most terrifying when he is in God's 6th form and Dragon's Blood Boil. The combination of Celestial Demon Infinite Sword and Grace Release is unbeatable, but he still has a barrier. This guy, he didn't even use 1/10 of his strength when he fought me. How is that possible? Inside my barrier, low-level displacement should be ineffective. A demigod expert glared angrily. As one of the top experts here, the quality of his barrier was extremely high. He was confident that his barrier could suppress 95% of the people here. However, Solipsistic was not affected by his barrier and could still use displacement as usual. When everyone saw the effects of the Celestial Demon Mixed Element Barrier, everyone's expression changed. Time-type barrier. Within the barrier, the flow of time is reduced by 50%. The enemy's speed is increased by 50%. The damage of all Heavenly Might attacks is increased by 50%, and damage reduction is ignored. This barrier is a moving barrier with the caster as the center. The radius of effect is 1,500 meters. Time-type barrier. This is an origin-type barrier. When the 9-clawed Dragon Emperor saw Lu Chun take the Infinite Sword and ran away, it could be seen that the quality of the Celestial Demon Mixed Element Barrier was much higher than the Dragon's Forbidden Land. However, these people's barriers were not as good as the Dragon's Forbidden Land. The extent to which they could affect Lu Chun was reduced to the minimum. This guy knows that he can't resist everyone's barriers and has been waiting for the Celestial Demon Mixed Element Barrier. Cowherd suddenly understood. Brat, you're still so calm. After killing one person in an instant, no one even saw Solipsistic's figure until a talisman master nearby suddenly burst out with a protective light. The 20 million durability Heaven and Earth shield was instantly destroyed. After losing his protection, the talisman master's health and defense were even lower than a sword rider's. He was directly cut in half and died in the blink of an eye. Reincarnation. That guy still had a trick up his sleeve, but Lu Chun did not care and directly locked onto the next target. A sword rider not far away was unlucky. Before he could see the person, that person's health bar disappeared. -14. 33 million. This number was not an accurate damage value, but the upper limit of the Cerberus Sword Rider's health. All 6 of his arms were cut off. This is physical damage. North Snow could not remain calm. So, solipsistic relief was a skill that dealt physical damage. If solipsistic relief had not been merciful, Lonely Fly would have been crippled. No wonder he was not afraid of reviving. After his physical body was heavily damaged, he could not recover even if he revived. Lu Chun had experienced this point firsthand. No one could lock onto solipsistic relief. He was like an untraceable ghost, shuttling back and forth among the 400-strong players. Wherever he went, there was only relief. In 15 seconds, 112 strong players, regardless of race, were unable to fight back. They were instantly killed. Chapter 539. The moment the chaotic celestial demon barrier ended, everyone realized that they were already in the middle of a massive chessboard. The Heavenly Might chess formation. One of the Heavenly Fiend marshals frowned. His subordinates had once reported to him about the battle with Solipsistic. At the time, Solipsistic had already been heavily injured, but he had still managed to kill 300 of his subordinates. He had even set up the Heavenly Might chess formation in the midst of his rapid killing spree, trapping him in the middle and severely injuring him. At first, he did not believe that anyone could maintain such a high level of composure under such circumstances, concealing the formation so well. But now he believed it. That fellow had already thought of what to do next before he attacked. 112 people had been instantly killed in less than 15 seconds, but he had set up such a powerful formation. This fellow plans before he acts. He's ruthless and leaves no room for negotiation. Although the Heavenly Might chess formation was only an Earth-class formation, it contained 4 high-grade Earth-class formations. It would not be an exaggeration to call it a Heaven-class formation. Inside the Heavenly Might chess formation, unless the formation was broken, the chess souls would quickly revert to human form even if they were killed. It could be said that there was no end to killing them. Of course, Lu Chun was not so naive as to use the Heavenly Might chess formation to directly kill the remaining 300 top-level Heavenly Fate Marshals. His goal was to temporarily trap them. Inside the chess formation, everyone heard a series of explosions outside. Oh no, my Dark Earth barrier has been broken by him. My Immortal Trace barrier as well. He wants to trap us. Focus on breaking the barrier. If not for the barrier restraining that freak, that fellow will be even harder to kill. Quick, work together to break the formation. The Heavenly Fate Marshals were very fast in breaking the formation. In just 2 to 3 minutes, all 4 major formations were broken. Next was the main formation. Quick, only the main formation is left. Break through from all sides. At that moment, the Heavenly Might chess formation suddenly disappeared on its own. All the chess souls slowly retreated until they disappeared. After the Heavenly Might chess formation disappeared, everyone saw that there was already someone waiting for them outside. Lu Chun hovered in midair, his red robes fluttering in the wind and rain. His eyes emitted a green light as the black and white taiji mist slowly flowed from the limitless sword in his hand. Lone Tyrant's lips curled up slightly as he said, "You guys are a little slow." The group of Heaven's Fate furiously glared at Lu Chun. "Solipsistic, what are you being so arrogant for? Don't think that you're invincible." Suddenly, someone in the crowd shouted, "Blood sacrifice, soul broiling formation." Peak Heaven's mandate realm cultivators weren't incompetent. While they were breaking the formation, a talisman master had also finished setting it up. Generally, techniques that used blood sacrifice as a prefix would require the user to burn a portion of their blood. Similarly, the benefits of using blood in exchange were also very considerable. The power of blood sacrifice techniques was also stronger than those of the same level. The blood sacrifice shield and blood sacrifice soul pull were the same. As for the blood sacrifice soul incineration array, it was even more special. Lu Chun could clearly see the HP of nearly 300 Fate of Heaven's Mandate players drop at the same time. The Kingdom Protector Autumn Phoenix said in shock, "This is sacrificing one's body and blood essence? This is too exaggerated." the blood essence of 300 Heaven's Mandate cultivators. My God, this array is probably a terrifying existence, even in the fourth heavenly layer. Many of these people already have the strength to head to the fourth heavenly layer. In the third heavenly layer, the heaven connecting tower isn't too difficult. The main point of the competition is the competition for resources from the various races. Madman, hold on. When Mountain Strength heard the discussions of these big shots, he became even more worried for Luchun. To set up this array at the cost of damaging one's body, what kind of terrifying thing was this madman facing? At this moment, a debuff appeared on Lu Chen's body. Blood Curse causes the blood in the body to go into chaos. Everyone moves a certain distance and loses a corresponding amount of HP. The further one moves, the greater the amount of HP lost. At the same time, it causes physical damage. Just by looking at this description, one could already tell how terrifying the Blood Curse Soul Incineration Array was. It didn't prohibit any movement skills, but directly dealt damage. For example, Lu Chen's Bestowment Extrication could deal 10 times the damage while teleporting, and it was guaranteed to be a critical hit. Under the Blood Curse, he could continue to use Bestowment Extrication. However, while using it, the Blood Curse would reduce his HP according to the distance he moved. Even if no one could lock onto him, he still couldn't escape the effects of the Blood Curse. Perhaps after using Bestowment Extrication, Lu Chen would lose too much blood. In addition, the condition of inflicting equal physical damage made the idea of using Resurrection to remove the effects completely useless. After being hit, Lu Chen didn't dare to move casually. Ha 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 ha, solipsistic. Use Bestowment Extrication again. Run again. Now you can only stand there and let us hit you. How powerful is the array activated with 300 Heaven's Mandate Cultivator's Blood Essence? After being hit by the Blood Curse, you're like a fish on a chopping block. The Blood Curse is specially made to counter your Bestowment Extrication. Kid, remember, in this Jiutian, there is no strongest technique. Everything counters each other. No matter how strong you are, you can't be the strongest. 9 transformations of the demonic god, limitless sword, and the human race. You can't protect any of them. Kill him. There were indeed hidden dragons and crouching tigers among the top Heaven's Mandate cultivators. There were even people who could use such a perverted array like Blood Sacrifice Soul. However, Lu Chen only smiled, as expected of peak 3rd Heavenly Layer Heaven's Mandate cultivators. I really underestimated you. But you're right. In a Jiutian, everything counters each other. So, the Blood Curse isn't invincible. With that, Lu Chen flipped his hand, and an illusory bow appeared in his hand. I don't only need close combat to kill. Lu Chen's green eyes swept across the crowd. Doppelganger. Demon King intent. Refresh. Doppelganger. More than 30 doppelgangers stood side by side, each holding an abyssal dragon crystal bow. Flash! Boom, boom, boom. A row of arrows flew in front of Lu Chen, piercing through the raindrops and disappearing in an instant. In the next second, they were already in front of the Heaven's Mandate cultivators. It's Permitha, Dragon Armor Shield. One of the Heaven's Mandate cultivators recognized Lu Chen's archery. The arrows only appeared when they were shot and right before they hit the target. There was no trajectory to follow. It was the Permitha archery that was most revered by archers. This guy's legendary class is a mystery. He's good at close combat and has a powerful battle pet. At the same time, he's also good at long-range attacks. Quick defend. These arrows can't be avoided. The damage and critical hit are extremely high. The Heaven's Mandate 8 Immortals use their various abilities to block the arrow rain. Not good. My shield durability is dropping too fast. It's forcing him to move and activate the Blood Curse. Earthvine Bind. The ground where Lu Chen was standing suddenly bulged up. A huge plant vine that looked like an octopus's tentacle crazily grew upwards. You want to stand still and attack. You've really underestimated the Blood Sacrifice Soul Sacrifice Array. The Blood Clan expert that had activated the Blood Sacrifice, Soul Sacrifice array coldly snorted. Blood Sacrifice, Soul Sacrifice array. Blood Demon of 8 directions. From 8 directions, 8 huge red claws appeared out of thin air and grabbed at Lucian at the same time. Help me block the arrows. I'll block his retreat. Mystic Ice Water Sword, Piercing Skull. I'll make sure you have no way out. The crystal divine sword in his hand turned into countless light spots and merged with the rain falling from the sky. In an instant, the raindrops solidified into sharp icicles and tilted toward Lucian. These were no longer ordinary icicles. Each icicle contained a fatal clone of the divine sword. Lucian's Qian and Kuan avatars had been completely surrounded. To make matters worse, he was under the effect of the blood curse and couldn't move. Ha! Solipsistic, you're dead for sure this time. Lucian frowned slightly and couldn't help but curse. Damn it! It seemed that he had no choice but to use that move. 6 demonic transformations. After learning the 6 demonic transformations, Lucian had mostly used the 6 demonic transformations. After all, for most situations, grace release was enough. But this time, he used the 6 demonic transformations for the first time. Chapter 540. The 6 devil transformations required a non-human form to enter, and this non-human form was Lucian's new appearance. Lucian's face deformed and sunk in until the skin fell off. From the crack in the skin behind him, a child crawled out. This child was thin and small, and his head was very big. There was a pair of devil horns on his forehead, and a pair of snow-white furry fox ears were particularly eye-catching. A pair of big eyes emitted even more dense green smoke, and the foxtail behind him unconsciously swayed. Damn, what is this thing? Mountain Strength almost fell down. In the crowd watching from afar, Shuang Wu widened her eyes and looked at the child in the image in disbelief. Is this madman's real body? It's a child? I want to hug him. It's so evil and cute. Mei Nyang's eyes unconsciously revealed a doting look, but she quickly reacted. Now is not the time to hug him. However, can this little guy deal with the current desperate situation? It's making people even more worried. Lucian was facing a desperate situation now. He could not move and was being attacked from all sides. Ha ha! I knew you were a little bastard who is still wet behind the ears. Sure enough. Transformation? Can you please transform into something more powerful? In the end, you turned into a little bastard. This is a hybrid between a human and a devil. Looks like you're already at your wit's end. Did you transform into a child to beg us to show mercy? Lu Chun, who was in the evil child state, activated the 6th devil state again. His body immediately emitted a black fog, and he narrowed his eyes slightly. Beg you to show mercy? Looks like you don't know that you're already dead. The 6 devil transformations was the same as the 6 god transformations. Other than greatly increasing attributes, it also gave an additional skill. Eternal Night. The limitless sword suddenly shot towards the sky. The limitless sword went against the sky and pierced through the thick thunderclouds in the sky. A large hole was instantly pierced through the black clouds. It was as if a hole had been pierced through the sky. A large gap was suddenly torn open in the torrential rain. However, before the sun could even penetrate the clouds, the world became as dark as night. When the darkness descended, the madly growing vines were suddenly attacked from all directions and instantly turned into wreckage. The octagonal ghost claw instantly dissipated. A few howls of unknown origin came from behind the ghost claw, as if they were the howls of the strange creatures hidden in the blood sacrifice soul-burning array. Heaven and earth were covered in darkness. The dark night was his weapon, and it could destroy all techniques that were inferior to this move. At the same time, debuffs appeared on the 300 heavenly fate realm experts on the ground. Eternal Night. When the Lord of the Night descends, everything under the cover of the night becomes the Lord's territory, and everything on the shores of the night becomes the Lord's subjects. Within the Evernight world, only I am reigning supreme. In the night state, all attacks that were cast with the help of God summons would lose their effect. They would not be able to distinguish directions, and their displacement skills would lose their effect. When attacking the Night Master, the preparation time of their skills would be increased by 100%. The evil child was suspended in midair. His robes were fluttering in the wind, and his hair was flying. The evil child's face was even more terrifying. So cute? At this point, no one could associate the Night Monarch with this term. It was as if he was the ruler of the world, ruling over the world. He also gained a new status: Night Devil, Demon Blood Flow. Within the eternal night barrier, the blood lost by the Night Devil will flow back into the Night Devil's body. The demon blood lost will be baptized by the night, and after flowing back, it will provide additional attack power. Seeing this effect, Dongfang Ji sucked in a breath of cold air. It's actually a barrier-type skill. This guy has 2 barriers, and they're so strong. North Snow Lord frowned. This demon blood flow effect, does it mean that if we can't kill that guy within the eternal night barrier, he will never die? Everyone was mulling over the description in their minds. After thinking about it carefully, they realized that it was indeed the case. The blood lost would flow back into the Night Devil's body. Although it could not prevent the Night Devil from losing blood, the problem was that he would flow back as much blood as he lost. This meant that he would recover as much blood as he lost. Perhaps the only weakness was that it did not really prevent the solipsistic from losing blood. If it was an attack that could instantly kill him, then the demon blood flow effect would be over before it could flow back. However, the problem was how to instantly kill the solipsistic, or within the eternal night barrier. Based on everyone's understanding of the solipsistic, he had at least 2 life-saving skills in his hands: the ghost pet's possession to protect its master, and the Buddha's salvation to the common people. Furthermore, he was still alive and had 2 more chances to be reborn. Heavens, no wonder that guy wasn't nervous at all. This barrier is simply invincible. He waited until now to use this barrier. Just how good is he at hiding? How many trump cards does he still have? Under the eternal night, I am the only one. With demon blood flow, not only will he not die, he will become stronger as he fights. This guy, heavens, he's ridiculously strong. The 6 transformations of gods and demons is worthy of being the #1 forbidden skill in the Jiuqian. This is too much. However, Cowherd did not think it was too much at all. Those heavenly fate all have barriers. With that kid's strength, he only has a barrier that activates when he's on the verge of death. This is abnormal in itself. I think it's more normal for him to have a barrier like the Eternal Night. After all, his own people would think from Lu Chen's point of view. Mountain-pulling strength finally let out a sigh of relief. This is great. With the Night Demon's effect, it's perfect to counter the blood sacrifice. That guy was right. Within the Jiuqian, everything counters each other. Within the Eternal Night, I am the only one. These words were enough to explain how terrifying the Eternal Night was. Previously, it was Lu Chun who couldn't move. Now, it was 300 Heavenly Fate who couldn't use any movement skills. According to the Jiuqian style, this kind of restriction of the opponent's skill had to follow a rule, and that was the quality of the skill. However, the Eternal Night came from the 6 transformations of gods and demons. Even if there was a higher quality movement skill than the 6 transformations of gods and demons, it would be hidden in some unknown place. The limitless sword of gods and demons turned into a black mist and fell from the sky, returning to Evil Child's hand. Lu Chun smiled. It's my turn again. With a flash of red, Lu Chun had already killed his way into the enemy's formation. The Blood Curse and Night Demon's effects were activated at the same time. Lu Chun spat out blood all the way, but the blood kept flowing back. This scene was a little bloody, but also a little strange. However, the flowing blood not only replenished his HP, it also activated another effect of the Night Demon, which was to continuously increase Lu Chen's attack power. Speaking of which, if he could use the Blood Curse on himself to continuously cleanse his blood, the effect would be very good. Before he finished thinking, Lu Chun had already arrived in front of the enemy. Infinite 3000 body, flash slash. The first person Lu Chun killed was the one who activated the blood sacrifice soul sacrifice formation. That person was unable to resist Lu Chun in the demon's sick state and was instantly killed. When the blood sacrifice, soul sacrifice formation was broken, fear flashed through the heavenly fate's eyes. The only thing that could still restrict that demon was gone. That guy was a demon god that had broken free from his chains and could kill as he pleased. Why would such a perverted guy appear among the humans? Why? That guy isn't human at all. He's a demon, a demon. Quick, quick, run. Too scary. He's too vicious. Lu Chun had never shown mercy to his enemies. In an instant, blood splattered across the night sky. Chapter 541. The untimely night shrouded the battlefield of the gods of demons. Blood and broken limbs filled the night. When the evil child stopped, his HP did not move at all, and his surroundings were dead silent. Blood flowed down the ultimate sword, but the child was not touched at all. The fur ball and the other pets had stopped fighting. Since their masters were dead, the pets were naturally unable to fight. Lu Chun called back the little fur ball and nodded with gratification. Well done, you little guys can finally take charge of things on your own. Lu Chun had invested a lot of time and energy to help them evolve. Divine Beast needed a lot of resources. Although the fur ball could eat on its own, it had been eating the pills made by Lu Yi. Those were all resources and money. Fortunately, the adult Divine Beasts did not disappoint Lu Chun. When faced with hundreds of rare pets, the army of Divine Beasts completely blocked the attack routes of the Divine Beasts and did not cause any trouble for Lu Chun. He recalled the fur ball and the other pets so that they could have a good rest. Looking at the corpses on the battlefield, Lu Chun's eyes were cold. Everyone, according to 1% of the territory, calculate how much territory I have taken. Beast's current territory is 3%. Heavenly Demon's current territory is 4%. Titan's current territory is 2%. Nature El's current territory is 3%. The simulated map on the ground turned into human territory one by one. One human had taken over 1/20th of the territory of the level 3 heavens. The core members of the various races looked at the solipsistic in horror. This guy had taken 1/20th of the territory of the level 3 heavens all by himself. The human race had become the race with the largest territory in the level 3 heavens. Oh my god, this guy is too terrifying. We wanted to arrest him. Is this his real strength? Sigh. It seems that the only chance to kill him was when he left the Heaven Punishing Tower. Unfortunately, we missed it. Nobody in the level 3 heavens can compete with him. The human race has already risen with this person in charge. Lu Chun raised his head and looked at the core members of the various races. The corners of his mouth curled up, and he sneered. I'll give you 10 hours to withdraw from the human border immediately. If I see any non-humankind army, I will destroy them directly. The surrounding non-human race leaders all felt a chill run down their spines. With the solipsistic's ruthless methods, the consequences of provoking him were absolutely unimaginable. The leaders and core members immediately issued orders. With him around, it's impossible for the human race to be wiped out. Inform the troops to withdraw from the human race's borders immediately. This guy is crazy. He might even bite back. He doesn't play by the rules at all. If we can't afford to provoke him, retreat immediately. If the demons still want to annex them, then let them do it themselves. We won't accompany them. Withdraw the troops overnight and return within 3 hours. There must be no delay. Lu Chun stood in the middle of the field and sat down on the ground. That's right. I remember that each competition can have a maximum of 3 rounds, but only 1 round has been carried out. There's still 2 more rounds. When the group of people heard his muttering, they were so scared that their faces turned pale. Lu Chun shook his head, his face full of unhappiness. Coupled with his big, evil child head, he looked like a child throwing a tantrum. 21% of the territory feels a little small. Moreover, the human race's territory is scattered all over the place. It doesn't look good. We must connect them together. A certain elder of the nature elf race hurriedly said that solipsistic In each myriad races competition, each contestant can indeed have a maximum of 3 rounds of competition. But just now, you killed everyone. We have no one left to participate. Lu Chen frowned. No one left to participate? That doesn't seem to be my problem. It's your own problem. Brother Shan, tell me, if no one participates, what will the result be? Mountain pulling strength was so scared that all the hair on his body stood up. Frenzy wanted him to reply, but this was the myriad races competition. Now, the highest leaders of the hundreds of participating races and the sect masters of the core forces were all here, not to mention the other heavenly fate realm experts. He was just a small corporal, but he actually had to speak in this kind of situation and become the focus of everyone. This was something that he didn't even dare to dream of in the past. Moreover, the guy who had intimidated everyone actually called him brother. His status and identity had suddenly increased by a few hundred times. Solipsistic calling him brother. What kind of strength was that? It was simply enough to be recorded in the history of the third heavenly layer. Jiuqian people respected strength, but Lu Chen didn't care about this. He wasn't used to Hongyu calling him senior, so he asked him to change it. Mountain pulling strength called him frenzy, and Cowherd called him stinking brat, but he didn't mind at all. Moreover, Lu Chen always called his friends older than him brother. Brother Shan, brother Monkey, brother Green Shirt. He didn't care about their strength at all. He only cared about their character and age. However, when the others heard Lu Chen's words, they all looked at Mountain pulling strength as if they were looking at a monster. It can't be. The human race has a super expert. Just now, Solipsistic wanted to call that person Brother Shan. Oh my God, it's actually a corporal. What corporal? This is not good. It's a whole foot higher than Solipsistic's rank. This person's strength is unfathomable. Solipsistic, a mere militia, can kill everyone in an instant. Doesn't that mean that mountain pulling strength is going to dominate the fourth heavenly layer? Mountain pulling strength was also speechless. A group of heavenly fate marshals was actually so afraid of a corporal. They spoke as if corporal was the highest rank in the military system. Of course, he also knew that the reason why they were so afraid of him was because of Solipsistic. He was a militia. Since he asked him at this time, it showed that their relationship was not ordinary. Birds of a feather flocked together. They naturally placed their strength on the same level as Solipsistic. Brother Shan? Lu Chen asked again. Only then did he pull libation back to reality. Oh yes, our human race has not participated in the Myriad Tribe tournament for many years. Our territory has been invaded wantonly. We only need to defend and not counterattack. Our people are not allowed to enter the territories of other races. Every year, we need to attack other races with large amounts of resources. Lu Chen nodded. You all heard the result, right? No one participated in the tournament. Lu Chen and Mountain pulling strength questions and answers were obviously not, because Lu Chen did not know. He was saying this for the other foreign races to hear. Everyone was well aware of this, and their faces instantly turned pale. This was the cycle of the heavens. When the human race was in decline, they had been oppressed at will. Now, they could not send anyone. Perhaps there were still people who could fight, but even a fool could see that whoever they sent now would be courting death. Mr. Solipsistic, can we discuss this? A foreign race's spokesperson said shakily. Our Berkeley race's territory is not big anymore. We had no choice but to participate in the Myriad Tribe tournament. Lu Chen glanced at the edge of the battlefield. There were indeed a few contestants from other races who had not participated in the encirclement against him, including the contestants from the Berkeley race. Perhaps this was why the elder had dared to negotiate with him. Mr. Solipsistic, we are willing to make concessions. In the future, the human race can enter our territory to cultivate. However, please do not encroach on our territory. With that, the person bowed deeply to Lu Chen. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly and said coldly, "What makes you think that you have the right to bargain with me?" Chapter 542. A child with small horns asked coldly, causing everyone present to feel a chill in their hearts. Vicious and merciless, this guy had reached the pinnacle of both. Everyone understood that without the lips, the teeth would feel cold. At this point, they could no longer differentiate between races. Otherwise, with that guy's greedy personality, he would probably take more of their territory. After 5 rounds, wouldn't the human race's territory occupy more than 2/3 of the third heaven? If the solipsistic stayed for another year, the second heaven would become the human race's territory. Solipsistic, we have lost, but please give us a way out. The heavenly devil sect leader lowered his noble head. You have to understand that the third heaven cannot be ruled by a single family. Just like the ancient dragon clan everywhere. Even if they occupy 90% of the third heaven's territory, they still can't escape the fate of extinction. Yes, we can coordinate and adjust the territory near the human race's territory. This way, you won't be scattered all over the place, a race's spokesperson said hurriedly. Also, just like the Berkeley clan suggested, we will allow the human race to enter our territory to train, and we will not stop them. We are willing to give up some territory and let the human race occupy 1/10 of our territory. After coordination, we will merge the human race's territory together, and at the same time, open all the dungeons in our territory to the human race. We can also pay tribute to the human race every year. Solipsistic, don't be so ruthless. Many of the foreign races begged Lu Chun, and they proposed several major measures, which made the human sect leader stunned. All the races bowed their heads to the solipsistic alone. Too domineering. I have never felt so proud like today. Mu Mansion Hong Yu took a deep breath, and even his back straightened. Mountain Li nodded. I didn't expect this. When this guy first came to the third heaven, he was like all the other newcomers, standing there like a fool. In just a few short months, he has already reached the peak of the third heaven, looking down on all the races. Cowherd laughed and said, Hee, I didn't think that the person I randomly found would turn out to be such a heaven-defying brat. Speaking of which, the name solipsistic will definitely be recorded in the history of the third sky and be worshipped by the future generations like the ancient dragon clan. When the time comes, when those brats in my hometown come up and know that I, straw man, once worked together with the strongest militia, the solipsistic, they will all die of envy. Mountain pulling strength was a little unconvinced. Elder Suo, I'm worth it too. You heard it just now too. Those outsiders all said that I'm stronger than the solipsistic. In the future, when I say the name of mountain pulling strength, I'll scare everyone to death. The kingdom guarding Autumn Phoenix could not help but smirk as she watched Libation and Cowherd bragging. Speaking of which, it was better not to tell this to Yanran. Otherwise, if that girl knew that the solipsistic warrior she had always wanted to surpass had reached the invincible realm of the third heaven in just a few months, she would probably have a mental breakdown. Besides, this girl, of all people, she just had to meet this brat. It's really too difficult to surpass him. Right? I wonder how Brother Du Quan will handle this. Even though the sect leaders of the 5 major powers were present, everyone seemed to have silently agreed on one thing. The solipsistic warrior's attitude was the attitude of the entire human race. His decision was their joint decision. I never thought that a group of heavenly fate marshals and the sect leaders of the top powers would actually have to listen to a small militia. This is probably the first time in the history of the third heaven. Cowherd smiled. That brat told me long ago that he doesn't care about military ranks. This is only the rule of the third heaven. I never thought that he would really be above the rules. At this moment, everyone's attention was on Lu Chun. Lu Chun remained silent for a long time. It was time for him to give an answer. I'll do as you say. Sign and sign. If I go against it, I will exterminate my entire race. Finally, the group of outsiders let out a long sigh of relief. When the human army had arrived, they were all cautious and did not dare to act rashly. However, when they returned, their faces were filled with pride. The glory and dignity of the human race had returned once again. Hey, brat, why did you let those outsiders take the corpses back? Lu Chun was slightly serious. Cowherd, you and I have both seen the people of other races. I also said that in our eyes, they are all evil people. However, in their own race, they are heroes if they can fight for their race's interests without caring about their lives. So, madman, You really didn't kill them? Lu Chen nodded. I don't have any deep hatred with them. Since I have already achieved my goal, why should I kill them all? Therefore, I didn't completely destroy their bodies. They should be able to live after resting for about half a year. The group safely passed through the territory of the monster race and entered the territory of the human race. The group was about to continue when Lu Chun suddenly called for Mountain Li and the others, as well as Coward. They temporarily separated from Hong Yu and the others. Lu Chun wanted to go to the place where he had just arrived at the third heaven to take a look. Not far ahead was the village where Lu Chun had been born. At this time, the monster race stationed here had already retreated, leaving behind an empty village. The stone wall in front of the village had also been repaired. Lu Chun stood on the stone wall and looked down at the forest in front of him. Madman, why did you bring us here? Lu Chun said, Actually, I've already thought about it. I won't really take over the territories of other races. Three Lives frowned and said, In other words, you were just acting when you forced them? Lu Chun nodded. I wanted them to give me a reasonable suggestion. This suggestion was definitely something they could accept. They won't regret it in the short term. Everyone was a little confused about Lu Chen's intentions. Although Lu Chen's plan was ingenious, based on the situation at that time, even if Lu Chen insisted on fighting, they had no choice but to agree. Why would they take a step back? Lu Chun said indifferently, If I forced them to their deaths, it would instead cause them to resist. Even if they didn't dare to do so at that time, they would definitely stake it all in the future. At that time, I was very difficult to talk to. After they fought for benefits with great difficulty, the first thing they thought of was not to obtain more benefits, but to temporarily protect their rights. This mentality should be similar to that of humans. Therefore, when the Bolek race asked me, I refused. That was to show them that I wasn't someone who was easy to talk to. In the end, they proposed a compromise, and I agreed. At that time, there was less resentment in their hearts and more joy. This was also the effect I wanted. Shuang Wu suddenly said, Madman, you want to leave the third heaven? Therefore, it was said that a woman's thoughts were more delicate. Lu Chun had these thoughts because Lu Chun could not always protect the interests of the human race. No matter how much he fought for now, if he left and the myriad race rebelled, then there would be nothing left. It was because he left them a way out that they would not collectively resist. Sanxing stared at Lu Chun with wide eyes. I didn't expect you to think so much. Madman, your thoughts are too meticulous. Right, when are you leaving? Lu Chun smiled. I won't go back with the army. I will stay in the third heaven for a few more months and level up. At that time, the myriad race will have fulfilled their promise. I will leave one person behind and then quietly leave. If my people come to the third heaven, please take care of them. I won't be able to receive them. Suddenly, the scene became quiet. After a long time, Cutthroat said, Sorry, Madman. Your growth speed is too fast. We can't catch up to you. Cutthroat sighed. Shuang Wu held back her tears and did not speak. Mountain Strength, Main Yang, Chasing Cloud, Ice Bear, Heartless, Big Beard, and Qing He were all silent. They had gone through fire and water together. The battle outside the village, the battle with the Thunder Giant Ape, and the battle at the Heaven's Punishment Tower. No matter who the opponent was, their team had never been separated. But all good things must come to an end. Madman had brought them here to bid farewell to them in advance. For a moment, the atmosphere became sad. So Owen took a deep breath and forced out a smile. Hey, I say, your team is always crying. Brat, going to the fourth heaven is a good thing. I see that you guys are not bad. If you work hard, you will be able to go up. Brat, take good care of yourself. I know that nothing can stop you from moving forward. We will not drag you down. Continue to move forward bravely towards your goal. Mountain Strength pursed his lips and walked over. He heavily punched Lu Chen's shoulder. Madman, no matter where you go, don't forget about us brothers and sisters. Cutthroat grabbed Lu Chen's neck from behind. Remember to come back and see us. If you forget, I will kill you with Cutthroat. Yes, you will never eat my roasted meat again. And my frost arrow, I will not let you use it. Can you use Devil Change? Let me touch your ears. Yes. I will pluck a hair as a souvenir. Lu Chun shook his head. These guys changed their faces too quickly. He had no choice but to come back and see them. Each and every one of them was asking too much. He had to teach them a lesson. Under the setting sun, a few figures were fighting. However, this time, Lu Chun seemed to have lost. Hey, you guys really plucked my hair. Hey, Chasing Cloud, you are too much. UF Asterisk King plucked a bunch. My tail is already bald. Chapter 543. Since Lu Chun wanted to maintain his prestige, he couldn't tell anyone about his departure from the third layer of heaven. He only told the people he trusted the most. Mountain Strength and the others couldn't stay any longer. They had to catch up with the team. Lu Chun also left behind a large amount of equipment in the Wood Mansion's warehouse. Limitless Sword only devoured new equipment. Lu Chun had no use for the old equipment. I've divided the equipment into 3 portions. I left one for Brother Mountain and the others. There are 2 more. When my people reach the third layer of heaven, I'll give the larger portion to the Iron and Blood Great Wall and the smaller portion to the Red High Heels. Lu Chun instructed, Okay, don't worry. Leave this to us. Seeing that they were about to say goodbye, Xuangwu suddenly pulled Lu Chun to the side and handed something to Lu Chun. Lu Chun looked at the thing in his hand strangely. Map of an unknown area, 4th layer of heaven. Lu Chun looked at the map. It was unknown how old the map was, but some areas couldn't be seen clearly. He could only see part of the route. Lu Chun looked at Xuangwu in surprise. Xuangwu, this is a map passed down from my family. It's a certain area in the 4th layer of heaven. No one knows where this place is. Lu Chun frowned. Xuangwu, why are you showing this to me? Xuangwu smiled. If there's a chance, can you go take a look? Although my family has declined, my family said that this place hides the hope of our Frost Clan's rise. This was the first time Lu Chun heard of the Frost Clan. Speaking of which, the secret of the Frost Clan was hidden in the 4th layer of heaven. Did it mean that the Frost Clan was once stronger than the 5 great powers? Xuangwu, you gave me such a secret. Does your family not have any objections? Aren't you worried that if there's some treasure inside, I'll take it and run? Xuangwu shook her head. I'm an ice mage. Mages were originally prophets. My family all came from prophets. Because of this, we believe in fate even more. Lu Chun frowned. Fate has allowed me to meet you, and it has also allowed me to see you clearly. I believe that you are someone worthy of being entrusted with. Frost Dance said, her face slightly red. It did take courage for a girl to say something like worth trusting. Unfortunately, Lu Chun showed his true colors as a straight man. He smiled foolishly and said, Okay, if I have the chance to come here, I'll definitely help you look for it. A trace of disappointment flashed across Frost Dance's fair face, but it was just a flash. That, madman, my family's records about the 4-layer heavens have been lost for a long time. Now I only remember one. You must pay attention to it. What is it? Xuangwu said solemnly. The 4th layer of heaven is known as the heaven domain before the 5th layer of heaven. Lu Chun almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Frost Dance, how could you joke with me like this? The 4th heaven is obviously the 1st heaven domain before the 5th heaven. Do I need you to tell me this? Xuangwu, however, didn't laugh. I'm not teasing you. Think about it. Why use the 5th heaven as a symbol? This was just like how the 5th of June was the day before the 6th of June. Everyone knew that, but when it came to its other identity, it was completely different. The day before the college entrance exam, Lu Chun stopped smiling. Xuangwu's words suddenly reminded him. Could it be that there's something special about the 5th layer of heaven? Xuangwu only said 2 words, a qualitative change. Lu Chun immediately understood. That's why the 4th layer of heaven is very dangerous and also very important. You must be extra careful. Xuangwu looked at Lu Chun with concern. Okay, thank you, Xuangwu. I'll remember it. After the 2 finished talking, Suoweng seemed to have something to give to Lu Chun. Old man, don't tell me you still have a treasure map? Lu Chun looked at the item in his hand and looked at Suoweng strangely. Suoweng laughed. Brat, how could I have so many treasure maps? Do you think treasure maps can be found everywhere? This is something you can't get. Lu Chun opened the small wooden box. Inside lay 4 cards and a wooden tablet. Attribute extraction scroll, 100 points. Second layer of Heaven Realm token, 1 day. Sual, Wing scratches head. Brat, you're too stubborn. You're not willing to raise your military rank, so you can't exchange for this. But I can exchange for it, hee. I heard that the 4th layer of Heaven's attribute extraction limit will increase a lot. Maybe you won't be interested in 100 points, but you should at least try it and understand the attribute extraction, right? The lower realm token is too expensive. I don't have much military merit, so I only exchange for 1 day. If you don't have enough, I'll go earn some more. Brat, there must be a lot of people in the 2nd layer of Heaven who want to see you. Look at you. You don't care at all. I think you won't think of coming back to see us, even if you reach the 4th layer of Heaven. Luchan laughed. Hey, I'm too busy. Thanks, Sual Wang. After parting ways, Sual Wang and the others had already gone to catch up with the group. Luchan's departure would not be made public. If they stayed too long, people would be suspicious. In the village, only Luchan was left. Luchan took out the attribute extraction scroll and the lower realm token. If it's just 1 day, should I bring the wild monster army up? Luchan thought about it and decided to leave the army to the 2nd layer of Heaven for now. Looking at the income from the personal dungeon, the daily dungeon entries were still used up in less than an hour. This meant that there were still many people who needed to level up through the personal dungeon. I can go back and level up the army and dungeon. Alright, I can catch a few strong wild monsters to expand the army. The matter of going to the lower realm might have to wait until he caught some wild monsters. Now, all that was left was the attribute extraction scroll. Is this the legendary attribute extraction? Luchan took a deep breath. Let's use it together and try it offline. Strength attribute extraction scroll used. Agility attribute extraction scroll used. Luchan woke up from the game cabin, opened the cabin door, and walked out. He looked at his fists. Did his strength, agility, physique, and even spiritual power increase? When he passed by Lu Yi's room, Luchan pulled his sister out and called Li Muhua over. Brother Chun, I'm in a dungeon. Why did you call me in such a hurry? Li Muhua was still panting. It looked like he ran all the way here. Brother, what's wrong? Luchan thought about it and said to Li Muhua, Blockhead, do you have a device to test the body's functions? Li Muhua frowned. We definitely don't have a strength stone like the one in Jiuqian, but we do have a place to test one's physical fitness. We can compare the results and determine a person's physical fitness. For example, that's right, weightlifting, 100m, and so on. Those are all regular events. Luchan nodded. Those were the only things that could be used to test one's physical fitness on Earth. Take me to test it, a secret test. Li Muhua's eyes widened. He seemed to have thought of something. Brother Chun, you couldn't have already. Luchan smiled. Won't you know once you test it? Chapter 544. Li Muhua was also ruthless. He immediately called for a helicopter to bring Lu Chun and Lu Yi to the nearest military base. The helicopter landed in a forest, and then the cave in front of them slowly opened. Lu Chun and his sister were stunned. This military base was really well hidden. Lin Hai personally received Lu Chun and his sister. Entering the military base, Lu Chun saw many advanced fighter jets and semi-finished armed tanks. These were things he had never seen on TV. Brother Lu Chun, this is our research base. The weapons you see are currently being researched and developed by us. They haven't been made public yet. Lin Hai smiled as he introduced. As a civilian, Lu Chun didn't expect that he would be able to see these things. Elder Lin, I'm testing my physical fitness. There's no need to test it in a secret base. Lin Hai laughed. Brother Lu Chun, don't be nervous. The secrets on your body are much more important than these. Just this attribute alone is enough to change the fate of mankind. Naturally, we can't be careless. The testing area here uses the most advanced technology. For example, the 1,000-meter track. The time could be accurate to the millisecond. There's absolutely no difference. Luchan also hoped that his data could be accurately measured. Since this place was the most accurate, then he would test it here. The semi-finished tanks in the testing area had been removed in advance. At this time, the field in front of Lu Chun was empty. There was a straight track that was a kilometer long. It was hard to imagine how big this military base was on the surface. There were some instruments installed at each node of the track. They looked very complicated, and Lu Chun didn't recognize them. Movement speed is the best test. Brother Lu Chun, let's start with movement speed. For the 100m and 1000m tests, one focuses on explosive speed. This point is mainly based on the agility attribute. The other tests physical fitness and endurance. This point is a combination of agility and physique. It seemed that the military had already made preparations and developed a complete set of test items. This was also good. The analysis of the data would be left to the experts. Lu Chun will be fine. At this time, a large number of scientists had already entered the viewing area. They were nervously staring at the few people in the arena. All the equipment in the field was automated. When Lu Chun stood on the starting line, the starting gun on one side automatically fired at random. There was no need for manual operation, which increased the accuracy of the data. Lin Hai, Li Muhua, and Lu Yi also returned to the spectator area to watch the test with the other scientists. The first event was the 100-meter sprint. Lu Chun's starting position was obviously very amateur. Suddenly, the gun beside him fired. Lu Chun took the first step after a short reaction. In just a few breaths of time, he had already crossed the finish line. Damn, this is too fast. Professor Zhang, how much time did it take? Without even looking at the exact time, it was already certain that Lu Chun had most likely broken the world record. Professor Zhang checked the data given by several instruments and raised his head in shock. 423 seconds. What? More than 7 seconds? This? Li Muhua's eyes almost fell out of their sockets. He's faster than the world record by more than 2 seconds. He hasn't undergone any training. Professor Zhang hurriedly found Lu Yi. Young lady, you're Lu Chun's sister, right? Lu Yi nodded blankly. Do you know how many seconds he usually takes for the 100-meter sprint? I don't know about that either. I only know that his nutrition couldn't keep up since he was young. His sports results have always been average. From an average person to breaking the world record by more than 5 seconds. This improvement shocked the scientists even more. This result is not only a huge improvement, but it has also exceeded the human speed limit. Professor Zhang said, this is the change caused by 100 points of dexterity. If it's 1,000 points or even 10,000 points, I think that the scenes in some sci-fi movies can definitely be realized. Yes, this change is a fundamental change to the human body. The human body structure determines that the 100-meter sprint limit is 9.48 seconds. Through scientific training and diet, people are constantly approaching this limit. However, Mad God easily broke through the human limit. I really want to study Mad God's body structure, Lin Hai said. Professor Li, you can only analyze the data. As for the body structure, you can't touch it. You have to know that this young man is the hope of mankind. Yes. I'm just saying. I know what's important and what's not. Professor Li smiled apologetically. The test continued. Whether it was the 100-meter sprint, the 1,000-meter sprint, or the various strength tests, Lu Chun easily broke the original world record and improved his results by a large margin. The group of experts did not have any time to rest at all. They were constantly studying Lu Chun's various data. The last test was the spiritual power test. Due to the lack of relevant experience, even the scientists did not specify an effective test method. Brother, why don't you try those skills in the game and see if there's any destructive power? Lu, he suddenly said. Yes, that's a good idea. Professor Zhang was enlightened. We don't have a way to use spiritual power, but Jiutian itself has it. Jiutian uses brain neuron connections. The methods of using those skills have actually been left in our brains. It's just that there's no spiritual power in reality, so we can't use it. But now it's just right to test it. Li Muhua went out to look around and found an iron rod. Brother Chun, we don't have any swords or knives here. Didn't you use the wishful long staff before? Do you think you can use this? Lu Chun took the long staff. I'll try it. Then I'll use the earth-splitting chasm. I use this skill more often, so I'm more familiar with it. Everyone stepped back and looked nervously at Lu Chun. When Lu Chun held the iron rod in his hand, it was as if he had returned to the game for a moment. It was a subtle feeling. For a moment, he felt as if Jiu Qian and reality were beginning to overlap. Earth-splitting chasm. Lu Chun smashed the iron rod on the reinforced concrete ground. The iron rod did not have the special effect of enlarging, but still burst out with amazing power. When the rod went down, the people around it even felt the ground shake. Immediately afterward, the reinforced ground cracked open. The crack cracked outward until it reached Lin Hai's feet. My God, this is not something that can be done by human power. It's spiritual power at work. The scientists were already a little incoherent. It's amazing. 100 points of spiritual power has allowed humans to reach such a terrifying level. Lu Chun felt a little numb in his hand, but other than that, he did not feel anything. I finally understand a little now. After Lu Chun spoke, everyone shut up and listened carefully. His realization was definitely more important than anyone else's. In the past, many people said that their home world was a low-martial world, a mid-martial world, and a high-level world. At that time, I didn't understand. Earth has so many high-tech weapons, so why would they look down on us? Lu Chun looked at the distant steel equipment. But now, a mere 100 points of attribute is already so terrifying. Some races are born with terrifying attributes, and these attributes are somehow brought into Jiotian. In front of them, some of my attributes are not as high as theirs. It's easy to imagine that a high-level world can easily crush our world with force. Lu Chen's gaze became bitingly cold. Lu Chen's abnormal attributes were dozens of times higher than an ordinary person, but his HP was not even as high as a captain of the Beast clan. This is the difference. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes. Chapter 545. It wasn't until nighttime that Lu Chun and his sister returned to their place. After testing for an entire day, Li Muhua ordered a bunch of delicious food to eat at Lu Chen's place. The specific values of the test still needed to be analyzed by the experts for a while, but the results so far had already left the three of them in disbelief. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Lu Chen's current physical fitness was the strongest in the entire human race. Chenggu, to be honest, watching you test today made me feel very conflicted, said Li Muhua as he drank his beer. How do you feel? Asked Lu Chun, puzzled. I can't describe it. I'm definitely shocked, but I also feel a little scared. Li Muhua simply put down his chopsticks. Chenggu, think about it. Stage 3 is already like this, and it's only 100 points in stats. It feels like Jiu Qian is giving us a taste of its sweetness. Our character stats are almost 10,000 points now. If they were to be fully extracted, how scary would that be? Louis added, Bro, I'm actually a little scared too. What will the world be like in the future? It'll definitely be completely different from what it is now. I can't quite imagine it. Lu Chen nodded. He could understand this feeling. When a world that only existed in fiction was right in front of everyone's eyes, when that mysterious veil was about to fall, it was inevitable to feel this way. It was a sense of loss towards the unknown future. Seeing that Lu, Yi, and Li Muhua were a little confused, Lu Chen smiled. From the day the Jiutian server was released, we were already embroiled in the competition of the entire universe. There's no point in being scared. We can only bravely move forward. Lu Chen's words immediately pulled Lu, Yi, and Li Muhua out of their daze. Yeah, bro, we understand. Other people don't have this kind of opportunity in their lifetime. We're actually lucky too. Right, opportunities and challenges coexist. My life will also be as exciting as the movies. Li Muhua's eyes lit up again. Lu Chen smiled and raised his glass. No, it'll be even more exciting than the movies. At night, before Lu Yi entered the game, Lu Chun came to his sister's room. Bro, aren't you going to enter the game? Is it because you're too tired today and need to rest? Lu Chun shook his head and sat beside Lu Yi's bed. My stamina is much better than before. I don't feel like I'm like this. Fatty, do you still remember our parents? Lu Yi frowned. Brother, why did you suddenly mention this? Lu Chen took a deep breath. He really wanted to tell Lu Yi that Mu Xian had mentioned his father before, but when he saw Lu Yi's carefree appearance, he swallowed his words. He hadn't found the answer yet, so there was no need to add to his sister's worries. Nothing much. What level are you now? Level 92. Level 92? So fast. Hee hee. There's someone leading us now. However, they don't reveal their identities. Brother Muhua secretly told me that we just need to follow them to level up and not ask about anything else. They don't know much anyway. Lu Yi jumped to the side of the bed and sat beside her brother. Brother, we might be able to enter the third heaven soon. I'll look for you then. Lu Chen blinked his eyes. You don't know who they are either? Can they be trusted? Yes, they can be trusted. They've already led a few of our teams. They've been working hard and even helped us to figure out how to clear the Tower of Babel. They just hope that we can grow faster. Lu Chun didn't know who these people were. They shouldn't be third heaven players. Brother, someone asked me about you. At that time, I got an important piece of information from him and didn't tell anyone. What is it? They're Earthlings. Lu Chun frowned. Earthlings? That was even more impossible for them to be third heaven players. In the third heaven, he didn't seem to have met a single Earthling. He asked other questions, but Lu Yi didn't know either. His sister naturally wouldn't hide anything from him. In that case, he might have to solve this question himself. The leveling speed of the Earth players exceeded Lu Chen's expectations. Lu Chen was very pleased. After chatting for a while, Lu Chen returned to his room and entered the game. After going online, Lu Chen went to the Nature Elves territory alone. The Nature Elves territory was still heavily guarded. However, after seeing Lu Chen, a human, they didn't stop him from entering the territory. It seemed that the Nature Elves had already announced the results of the Myriad Race Tournament and allowed humans to enter their territory. Although he was always surrounded by the same gazes, Lu Chen didn't care. He went straight to the Nature Elves' largest main city. The 5 main cities of the Nature Elves, or more accurately, were 5 enormous towering trees. The area where their roots connected was the golden spot for leveling up. That was also where Lu Chen wanted to go. It was a little boring to be alone, so Lu Chen brought Xiao Min and Little Green with him. 5 days later, the monsters in the 5 main cities no longer spawned. After investigation, the Nature Elves discovered that someone was leveling up in the core area of the wild monsters and had monopolized all the wild monsters. Dark Moon Elder, the humans are too much. They actually monopolized the leveling area. A tall and thin male elf said with righteous indignation, I'll kill him. On the other hand, the elf who was called the Dark Moon Elder didn't look old at all. She was no different from a young female elf. Kill him? Greenleaf, can you use your brain? The number of humans who can solo that place can be counted with one hand. Not a single wild monster escaped from the 5 main leveling areas. How many people can do this? You're saying that he's the solipsistic? Dark Moon stood up. Her body shape was almost the same as a human female, but she seemed to be even more slender. Whether it's him or not, the myriad races have already bowed their heads to that person. Since we've already signed the treaty, we must act according to the terms. Dark Moon narrowed her slender eyes. That guy is definitely not a kind person. With his cruelty, I can't even believe that he would agree to our request. Maybe he's already regretting it now. He's waiting for someone to violate the agreement so that he can break it. But Elder, are we going to admit defeat just like that? Admit defeat? No, we Nature Elves will never admit defeat. We're just avoiding him. Don't disturb him during this period of time until he leaves. Greenleaf let out a long breath. It seemed that this was the only way now. In the end, Lu Chun only stayed here for a week before heading to the next stop, the Sky Demon Race's territory. Half a month later, he left the Sky Demon Race's leveling area and headed to the Beast Race, then to the Titan Race, the Demigod Race. 2 months later, Lu Chun took some time to return to the Second Heaven. He expanded his army and upgraded it to a level 4 army. He also upgraded his personal dungeon to level 90. As for income, Lu Chun didn't care anymore. His assets were now in the tens of billions, and it was still growing steadily every day. He would leave the personal dungeon for the Earth players to level up for the time being. Erzhan, These are 10 Kuei cows and 10 three-tailed foxes. You can assign teams. With them, no one in the second heaven can threaten you. At first, Liu Chan wanted to visit his friends in the second heaven. However, the Earth players were now widely scattered in the second heaven. Liu Chan found it like looking for a needle in a haystack. One day's time was too tight. Liu Chan shook his head and had to give up the chance to visit his old friends. When can I freely descend? Liu Chan grumbled and returned to the third heaven. At the center of the myriad race battlefield stood a giant tower that shot straight into the sky. A large number of armies from various races were lying in ambush around the tower, specifically to stop other races from breaking into the tower. Without the support of a race, it was almost impossible to get close. However, at this moment, a red figure was flashing toward the tower at a speed that couldn't be seen by the naked eye. Tower of Babel, I'm coming. Chapter 546. Arriving in front of Tong Tian Tower, Liu Chan directly entered the instance. Once he entered the instance, the map showed that he was in the third floor. A large black hole appeared in front of him. The most important thing in the third heaven was the race competition. As for the third heaven domain boss, no one mentioned it. Liu Chan did not feel any pressure. Speaking of the 400 heavens fate that he defeated, it was said that many of them had the ability to enter the fourth heaven. Then it shouldn't be difficult for him to enter Tong Tian Tower. Touching the entrance, Liu Chan entered the instance. In the middle of the room, there was a figure with his back facing him. Looking at the figure, it seemed to be a human. Of course, there were many races that liked to turn into human form. Then when the boss turned around, it was very likely that he would have a strange face. Liu Chan walked over. When Liu Chan stopped behind the boss spoke first. You're here? I've been waiting for you here for 2 months. After saying this, that person turned around. Liu Chan knit his brows. The person in front of him was actually a human. A handsome human man in a white robe. You're a human? That person faintly smiled. Race doesn't make a difference to me. Whatever race comes to challenge me, that's what race I am. Liu Chan narrowed his eyes. This fellow could transform into 10,000 races. You said you've been waiting for me for 2 months? What do you mean? Liu Chan probed. Aren't you the boss here? Anyone can challenge you. The man waved his hand, and a large creature's corpse appeared beside him. The corpse was still shining with a golden light, as if the items it dropped hadn't been picked up yet. Liu Chan saw that fellow's ID and was even more shocked. Heaven Domain Boss, 7 Sins Source. The Heaven Domain Boss was already dead. How could Liu Chan not be shocked? This was his Heaven Domain Boss. Then who was this person standing in front of him? The man faintly smiled. 7 Sins is far from being your opponent. There's no meaning in letting it be your Heaven Domain Boss. Liu Chan's mind was a bit confused. What do you mean? The man smiled faintly. His smile was like a spring breeze. Do you still not understand? 7 Sins doesn't deserve to be your Heavenly Domain Boss, so I killed it. My mission is to stop you from entering the fourth heaven. In a sense, I am your Heavenly Domain Boss. Liu Chan's eyes widened in anger. Other people can enter level 4 as long as they kill this boss. Why'd I have to fight with you? Are you afraid of me? I just think it's unfair. Liu Chan said angrily. Fair? Solipsistic, there is no such thing as absolute fairness in this world. Your existence is a challenge to the Jiuqian, and your choice has shown your position time and time again. Since you are not willing to compromise, it is impossible for you to be fair. This sentence seemed to have revealed the identity of this man. This guy was definitely not an ordinary person. Liu Chan could not help but distance himself from this man. The man maintained a smile and suddenly asked another question. Do you know why the ancient dragon clan didn't enter the fourth heaven? You think they really didn't want to? Wrong. There's actually only one real reason. The man smiled faintly because at that time, the Heavenly Domain Boss was me. I didn't want them to enter the fourth heaven, so they could only stay in the third heaven. There were no exceptions. Without competition in the third heaven, even the strongest ancient dragon clan was not needed in the fourth heaven. Speaking of which, the 9-winged dragon emperor that you killed was indeed the strongest among the ancient dragon clan. However, In the long history of the ancient dragon clan, it didn't seem to be in the top 100. Liu Chan sucked in a breath of cold air. It was not because the ancient dragon clan was more powerful than the legend said, but because this guy who blocked all the ancient dragon clan from entering the fourth heaven was the most terrifying one. Liu Chan sucked in a deep breath. Clearly, his heavenly domain boss was not the origin of 7 sins that fell on the ground, but this guy with unfathomable strength in front of him. Suddenly, Liu Chan laughed. Looks like my luck is really bad. Challenging Tong Tian Tower can even attract an expert from the ancient era. Sigh, looks like this battle won't be so simple. The white-clothed man smiled and shrugged. Can't help it. Who asked you to be so unappreciative? All right, if you defeat me, I'll leave the boss drops for you. I guarantee that you won't miss out on a single item. Liu Chan curled his lips and laughed. Actually, what I want to know is if I kill you, will you drop anything? Me? I can't help you with this because I've never died before. I don't know if I'll drop anything if I die. Speaking of which, the things you have on you are also quite attractive to me. You've already gathered the first 6 transformations of the 9 transformations of gods and demons. The limitless sword of gods and demons, TSK, 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 and the most uncontrollable sky-devouring rat in Jiutian. I really want them all. Liu Chen's face was full of awkwardness. Speaking of which, what a coincidence. I've never died before either. I don't know if I'll drop anything if I die. That'll depend on your luck. Ha. Then it looks like one of us will have to die today. Both of them had smiles on their faces as if they were chatting with friends. However, the content of their conversation could be heard by anyone. They were at daggers drawn and at each other's throats. Their laughter came to an abrupt end. Their eyes were filled with unparalleled killing intent. That's right, today one of these 2 people who had never died before would definitely fall. In a short 5 minutes, the 2 of them had finished testing each other. Liu Chan went from the 3rd transformation of gods to the 4th transformation of gods, the 5th transformation of gods, and now he had entered the 6th transformation of gods. Infinite bestowal liberation. In the 6th transformation of gods, Liu Chan had already used his strongest move. The opponent in front of him had also used the super transformation skill 7 deadly sins. At this moment, his entire body was emitting 7 different colors. It was sacred and somewhat strange. Seeing Liu Chan use the 6th transformation of gods, that person's eyes were burning. Solipsistic, the 6th transformation of gods and demons, is only SOSO. I don't think it's stronger than my 7 deadly sins. Is this the special effect of the 6th transformation of gods? Infinite bestowal liberation. Ha, exciting. It's a pity that only I can grant you liberation. 7 deadly sins, sin of sloth. After this battle, the ranking of the number 1 forbidden book in Jiutian should be changed. In a flashing state, Liu Chan was suddenly forced to stop using the skill and run in the opposite direction. Among the 7 deadly sins, the sin of sloth was punished by running. In Jiutian, the effect was similar to intimidation. The impeccable bestowal liberation was actually restrained by the simplest intimidation. 7 deadly sins, sin of jealousy. 7 deadly sins, sin of pride. The sin of jealousy was punished by closing one's eyes. The sin of pride was punished by bearing a heavy burden. Liu Chen's vision suddenly disappeared. It was pitch black in front of him. His movement speed suddenly dropped, as if he was carrying a mountain on his back. Dark Eye of the Gods. Liu Chan gritted his teeth and summoned his magic weapon. Dark Eye of the Gods. Ha. It's useless in front of me. Ancient god of war, heaven-crossing sword. The man turned into a sword light. The Dark Eye of the Gods gave an immeasurable number of preemptive warnings. There was only one possibility for such a situation. There was only one sword, but there were countless variations. Solipsistic, you didn't expect this, did you? Did you think you could pass through the 3rd heaven so easily? Ha. I'll make sure you die before you can pass through the 3rd heaven. Liu Chen's breathing quickened. The Dark Eye of the Gods had already told him that death was approaching. The man in white was right. He really didn't expect to meet such a terrifying opponent at the third heaven. Very good. Lu Qin's nostrils flared. I thought the third heaven wasn't that difficult. I didn't want to use this move. Fine, I'll let you have a taste of it. 6 transformations of gods and demons, symbiosis. With a boom, the limitless godly demon sword and Lu Qin exploded with black and white lights at the same time. It almost caused the entire battlefield to collapse. The heaven-crossing sword was directly pushed back. The man crashed into dozens of stone pillars and fell to the ground. He didn't have time to check his injuries. He looked at the core of the black light in horror. This is an exclusive skill. The limitless godly demon sword was the exclusive weapon of the 9 transformations of gods and demons. Chapter 547. Even Lu Qin's closest friends didn't know how many trump cards Lu Qin had up his sleeves. It was his style to not use his ultimate move in advance. While cultivating the 6 transformations of the celestial and demon, Lu Qin discovered that the infinite celestial and demon sword had activated a new special effect, celestial and demon symbiosis. Unfortunately, within the third heaven, no one was able to force Lu Qin to use the symbiosis of gods and demons. Who would have thought that in the Tong Tian Tower, where everyone thought he could easily pass through, the white-robed man was able to force Lu Qin to use this move in a battle that no one else knew about? The black and white of the limitless godly demon sword merged into one. The black and white were like 2 living azure dragons, interweaving and swimming. You have me, I have you. Lu Qin had 2 horns on his head, and his whole body was bursting with layers of golden light. One of his pupils was gold, and the other was dark green. He looked like a demigod, and his whole body slowly rose into the air. The white-robed man wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Just now, he had relied on the aftershock of his transformation to break through his measure heaven sword and force him back. Without a doubt, the symbiosis of gods and demons was definitely the solipsistic's strongest skill. Very good. The man in white's lips curled up, and his eyes were filled with passion. Then he pulled out a long whip from the void. You're not the only one with a personal weapon. Your 6 transformations of demons and gods are ultimately incomplete, and its might is limited. On the other hand, my 7 deadly sins have already been cultivated to the pinnacle. I don't believe that I can't defeat your celestial demon symbiosis at my pinnacle. You are qualified to witness this move of mine. The white-clothed man's aura surged rapidly, and the long whip in his hand shone brightly. Exclusive skill. 7 deadly sins. 7 sins combined punishment. 7 sins combined punishment against gods and demons. Outside the Tower of Babel, the troops stationed in the distance suddenly felt the ground shake violently. What's going on? An earthquake? No, it's coming from Tong Tian Tower. Someone is challenging Tong Tian Tower? That's impossible. Even if someone tried to break into the tower, it's impossible for them to cause the surrounding area to tremble. Could it be that something has happened to Tong Tian Tower? Send the order immediately. Head to the Tower of Babel to investigate. Right at this moment, a burst of air swept over, cutting the surrounding trees in half. The force of the air directly overturned countless people. With the Tong Tian Tower as the center, the energy rippled out in a circular manner, sweeping across the entire area. The Heaven Devil Race's guardian general managed to block the Qi Ring with his spirit energy shield in time. The Qi Ring swept past him and vanished in the blink of an eye, but the low-ranking soldiers behind him were all caught up in it, turning the camp into a complete mess. He turned to look in the direction of Skysplit Tower. The abyssal demon's eyes were wide and round. There was no damage, but it was able to cause such terrifying destruction. This is the aftermath of the collision. Heavens! Just who is it that dared to challenge the trials of Tong Tian Tower? Just one move was enough to cause such a terrifying aftershock. His subordinate could be considered an expert as well. He dodged the attack and said in a low voice, "Marshal Tian Min, I want to ask around just now." There There was no news of fighting around Tong Tian Tower. I wonder who broke through all the defenses so easily. This descendant was the heavenly demon marshal that Lu Chun had fought before. Tian Min took a deep breath. It's not impossible to break through the defenses, but the strange thing is that the heaven domain boss of Tong Tian Tower should be the origin of 7 sins. Although it's powerful, it shouldn't be this powerful. The aftershock of the collision with the person who challenged the tower actually reached 10,000 meters away. I really can't imagine what level of collision between the two moves could cause such a huge impact. The subordinate thought for a moment and said tentatively, "Could it be the solipsistic?" Impossible. The solipsistic is still in human territory. He's currently residing in the Wood Prefecture City. There are people from every race watching him. Inside Tong Tian Tower, celestial demon symbiosis and 7 sins punishment were unleashed at the same time. These two moves did not suppress or restrain the other. They collided head-on. When the two super powerful skills collided, the shocking impact was even beyond Lu Chen's expectations. The two of them flew backward at the same time. Both of them crashed through countless stone pillars and smashed into the edge of the wall. If this was not Tong Tian Tower, the two of them would have smashed through the wall and flown out. Lu Chun spat out a mouthful of blood. His HP was directly gone. Not only was his HP bar gone, but there was even worse news. Your physical body has been severely damaged. The damage ratio is 98.3%. A moment later, Lu Chun was resurrected from the flames. At full health, Lu Chen's maximum HP was 27 million. However, after resurrection, his HP was only 460,000. This was not the most important thing. All his skills were sealed, and he could not move his body. 98.3% damage to his physical body meant that Lu Chun had almost died this time. This was the first time that Lu Chun was unable to move after being resurrected. The damage to his physical body was too terrifying. It perfectly countered the resurrection skill. He struggled to sit up, panting as he looked at his opponent in the distance. His opponent was also leaning against the wall, motionless. He did not know if his opponent was dead or alive. Is he dead or not? Lu Chun stood up with difficulty and moved over step by step. That guy was leaning against the wall, his head drooping. It seemed that he was not breathing. Lu Chun raised everlasting sword and was about to stab down. Suddenly, the guy on the ground opened his eyes and lashed out with his whip. Lu Chen's skills were sealed. It would be a miracle if he could even walk over. There was no way he could dodge this attack. Even if Xiao Min could help him block this attack, his physical body could not take any more damage. At that time, his character would only have a sliver of HP left, but Lu Chun would really die. At this moment, a white shadow flew out. The moment it flew out, its body expanded and blocked the attack. "You Gradine, good thing I was prepared. Little furball, I'll leave it to you." After saying this, Lu Chun finally could not hold on any longer and fell on his back. After who knew how much time had passed, when Lu Chun woke up, he found that Little Furball was using his little head to support his palm. "Little Furball, is he dead?" "Zhi. Why didn't I let you come out earlier?" When Lu Chun heard the Little Furball blaming him, he forced a smile. "That guy is too strong. Right now, cough, 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 you're not his opponent. I have to confirm that he's seriously injured before I let you out." Hearing that his boss had forced himself to check on the enemy because he was worried about his own safety, Little Furball sadly ran to Lu Chen's side and rubbed against Lu Chen's face. "I really didn't think that the heavenly domain boss that I didn't take seriously would almost take my life. What a big surprise. I really can't be careless on this Jiuqian path." The appearance of the man in white seemed to be because of his special identity. As long as he did not compromise, his future path would be even more difficult. "You want me to compromise? Dream on. Ouch, it hurts." Lu Chen's face was distorted from the pain. "Little Green." Lu Chun summoned Little Green. "Boss, you're heavily injured." Lu Yi's eyes were filled with tears. Her hands trembled as she checked on Lu Chen's condition. "I know. Hurry up and take a look. I think I can still be saved." After saying his last wish, Lu Chun fainted again. Chapter 548. At night, Lu Chun woke up again. After a few hours of care from Lu Yi, Lu Chun's injuries had improved. His body's damage had reached 44%. Boss, I gave you a few pills. If you continue using them, the effect will be very small, and you will develop a resistance to them. Lu Yi helped Lu Chun stand up. Why don't we rest here for a few more days? We'll talk about it later. I just checked. The system wants me to leave the dungeon, or else I'll fail the tower. Lu Chun looked around. Where's that guy's corpse? Furball? The furry ball squeaked a few times, which startled Lu Chun. It ran away after eating half of it? A scene flashed across Lu Chun's mind. A person who was bitten to death by furball ran away. Did you eat it horizontally or vertically? Squeak, squeak, squeak. Furball said that it wasn't particular when it ate. Lu Chun shook his head. Anyway, the scene must have been horrifying. That guy could still run away after being injured like that. What the hell is that? Lu Chun thought about it, but couldn't think of anything. Forget it. He's not a real celestial domain boss anyway. We can go to the fourth heaven. He walked to the corpse of the origin of 7 sins and picked up the items. Obtained celestial armor, sinful monarch's robe. Obtained dazzling gold weapon, 7-star fire orb, firearm. Obtained dazzling gold item, Tai Sha, mount treasure. Obtained dark gold. This guy was killed by the man in white, so Lu Chun didn't get any upgrade materials and wouldn't trigger the greed effect. In short, it was a loss. Damn it, don't let me meet that guy again. Otherwise, I'll make him compensate me. Lu Chun directly gave the equipment to Wu Ji, sword to devour, leaving only the mount treasure. Tai Sha didn't add any attributes to Lu Chun. It also didn't intimidate other mounts like the 9-winged. Sometimes it could even provide decent AoE attacks. However, as a mount of the same level, Tai Shua's speed was much faster than 9-winged. At the same time, Lu Chun was shocked speechless for a long time by the only characteristic of the Cosmos Shuttle. Item type, cacheable item what? What the F***CK? Lu Chun exclaimed. Item extraction? If I were to bring this thing into the real world, wouldn't it cause an uproar? However, although the Taisoa could be extracted, it didn't say how to extract it or what materials were needed. In the first 3 heavens, other than the 100 points attribute extraction scroll, there were no other items related to extraction. Maybe I'll have to go to the 4th heaven. Let's see what it looks like first. After summoning the Tai Shua, a huge shuttle-shaped object floated in the air. It looked a bit like a tetrahedron weapon. It was about 5 or 6 meters long, which wasn't very big. Streamlined design. There's no cockpit or anything. Can this thing really be used after it's extracted? Generally speaking, the Tai Shua was much worse than the 9-winged, but perhaps because of its attributes, it had also become a dazzling gold mount. Putting away the Tai Shua, Lu Chun walked to the 4th heaven. I'm going to the 4th heaven. Lu Chun took a deep breath. 1 heavens, 1 heaven. I wonder what the 4th heaven looks like. Let's go. After saying that, Lu Chun stepped into the entrance. In the Wood Prefecture, Lu Chun stayed in his room all day and rarely went out. Occasionally, the cowherd would come to see him, but every time he came in, he would always close the door. Little Originator, do you want to go to the dungeon with me? It's too boring for you to stay here alone. The cowherd patted Little Originator on the shoulder. In fact, this solipsistic was really no different from the real thing. It could even transform into a solipsistic God 6 or Demon 6. Little Originator couldn't speak and had little self-awareness. In fact, it was just a special puppet. However, to the cowherd's surprise, he only came to make sure that Little Originator was fine. After all the major races now believed that Little Originator was the solipsistic. Because of this, no one dared to act rashly. However, Little Originator, who had never spoken, actually spoke today. Okay. Little Originator struggled to speak and stammered. However, these few simple words still made the cowherd widen his eyes and look at Little Originator in shock. Little Originator, you spoke? Did the solipsistic speak through you? Little Originator shook its head. Little Little originator wants to become stronger. Little originator wants to find boss. The cowherd suddenly fell silent. In order to stabilize the situation, that stinky brat had left little originator. After all, little originator could transform into a solipsistic, so no one would suspect it. However, little originator had spoken today. Little originator wanted to continue following Lu Chun. It wanted to become stronger and go to the fourth layer of heaven to find them. The cowherd patted little originator's shoulder. Little originator, you have always been strong. It's just that we have neglected your strength and your feelings. I believe that your boss will not leave you behind unless he has no other choice. Little originator knows, the cowherd nodded. It's rare for you to be so sensible. Well, although this old man is old, and I'm not sure if I can take you to the fourth layer of heaven, but I'll try my best. We will all become stronger. After a moment of dizziness, Lu Chun finally set foot on the fourth layer of heaven. He raised his head blankly and looked at his surroundings. This was a desert. There were no other newbies, no team like the mountain of strength waiting for him. He was all alone in the sandstorm. What's going on? Is a novice village too lazy to make one? Lu Chun shook his head. At least give me a prompt. The system is silent. He was still injured and in a bad state. Little Green needed materials to refine elixirs. Looking at the barren surroundings, it did not seem like a place where he could gather herbs. Rhubarb. Lu Chun called out Rhubarb. Do you know this place? Rhubarb shook its head. Woof woof. There's a city ahead. Lu Chun frowned. Well, let's go to the city to avoid the sandstorm. The sandstorm is too fierce. I can't even open my eyes. In the sandstorm, Lu Chun and his dog trudged against the wind. After walking for an hour, the sky darkened. Lu Chun was already a little tired. Coincidentally, there was a ruin in front of them. The broken bricks could block some of the sandstorm. Lu Chun brought Rhubarb inside to rest. The first 3 layers of heaven were green mountains and clear waters. Why is the fourth layer of heaven like this? Lu Chun hid behind a broken wall and leaned against Rhubarb. Cold and hungry. Lu Chun shivered. I never felt cold before, but now I feel so strong. Lu Chun took out 2 pieces of barbecued meat and gave one to Rhubarb. This was prepared by chasing Cloud. It could be used to sate his hunger. After eating something, he felt a little better. Lu Chun looked up. The sky was gray, and sand was everywhere, covering the sky and the sun. Rhubarb circled around him a few times and barked at Lu Chun. What, this is the city? Lu Chun stared with his eyes wide open. He thought it was the kind of city that would be overcrowded. In the end, the city was already in ruins. Damn, what the hell is the fourth layer of heaven? Lu Chun shook his head in confusion. Can there be living people in this place? Chapter 549. Lu Yi used the remaining materials to refine some pills. Although she couldn't completely heal Lu Chen's injuries, she was able to control the worsening of his injuries. At the same time, she was also able to heal Lu Chen's injuries to a small extent. Lu Chen's situation wasn't too bad. Of course, that was on the premise that Lu Chun didn't casually fight with others. When Lu Chun first arrived at the fourth heaven, he didn't even have the time to figure out what the fourth heaven was like. He could already feel the huge difference between the fourth heaven and the previous heaven domain. He would feel cold, hungry, and thirsty. Even the feeling caused by the external environment is much more obvious than before. It's no different from the real world. If it's a battle, it should be easier to affect the real world. Having just arrived at the fourth heaven, although he didn't see anyone for the time being, Lu Chun didn't dare to casually go offline to rest. Taking advantage of the night, when the wind and sand gradually subsided, Lu Chun asked Lu Yi for some leftover medicinal dregs. He scraped some sparks from the fire cheelant's body and started a bonfire. At night, he leaned against Rhubarb and Furball and fell asleep in a daze. Hurry up and let me meet someone. Lu Chun made a wish before he went to sleep. The next morning, before the wind and sand started blowing, Lu Chun woke up early and continued on his journey with Rhubarb and Furball. Although he said he was rushing, Lu Chun didn't even know where to go. He could only keep walking in one direction. After walking for an entire morning, Lu Chun finally saw the forest in front of him. After walking for half a day through the forest, when Lu Chun saw the lit torches in front of him in the evening, he almost cried tears of joy. There's finally someone. After all, this was the fourth heaven. Lu Chun temporarily recalled rhubarb and furball and entered the town in front of him alone. There were quite a lot of people in the town. They were all kinds of equipment and came and went. They're all humans? But then again, Lu Chun was still randomly assigned to the human camp from the second celestial layer to the third celestial layer. Looking at it this way, it was normal for Lu Chun to be born near the human camp. After interacting with a large number of humans in different regions in the three heavens, Lu Chun now felt very close to those strange-looking humans. Lu Chun found several inns in succession, but they were all fully booked. He did not know why there were so many people in such an unremarkable town. With great difficulty, Lu Chun finally found an inconspicuous inn and settled down. The guest room was on the second floor. After Lu Chun rested, he leaned against the window and looked out. The window was made of paper wood, the kind that was propped up outwards. It had an antique feel to it. This town was a little like a small town in ancient times. They were all brick bungalows with 3 to 4 floors. The back of the town was against a large mountain. The area was not too big. Other than the players with all kinds of equipment on the streets, there were also some people wearing gray robes. They were all walking towards the mountain in 2s and 3s. At this moment, the waiter opened the door and brought in hot water and food. The feeling of the fourth celestial layer was not much different from the real world. These feelings directly affected the health of the body. Lu Chun ordered a lot of food the moment he arrived. "Sir, looking at your travel-worn appearance, you must have just reached the fourth celestial layer." The waiter was busy serving the food and chatting with him. "Yes. Are you an NPC or a player?" Lu Chun could not help but ask. "There are no NPCs now. I'm a player. I'm working here to make money. I'm also waiting for the immortal fate." The person laughed. "If I don't do anything and just stay here, the cost will be too high." Lu Chun sat in front of the table. "Little brother, if you're free, what is the immortal fate that you mentioned?" The person was quite enthusiastic. "We're all humans. What's there to hide? The immortal fate. Look, it's that mountain. That's the only sect nearby, the celestial sect. In the fourth celestial layer, the celestial sect controls almost all the dungeons and training areas. Only by entering the celestial sect can you exchange for the attribute extraction scroll and item extraction scroll." The little brother said, "You must have come from the barren land. You should have seen the situation there. It's a barren land. There's nothing there. Other than the celestial sect, it's all like that outside." Lu Chun was stunned. "Celestial sect? Little brother, sit down and eat with me. I can't eat so much by myself. There aren't any customers right now. Don't be so polite." The person sat down after being polite. Lu Chun personally poured him a pot of wine. Lu Chun ordered this the moment he saw it. He did not know how the wine in the fourth celestial layer tasted, so now was a good time to present it to Buddha. After drinking the wine, the little brother became more talkative. "Yes, brother, I like your temper. Then I'll tell you more. Those who can come to the fourth celestial layer are all experts in the third celestial layer. But when you come to the fourth celestial layer, you will realize that the third celestial layer is only the most basic test for the major sects in the fourth celestial layer to select disciples. If you can't even reach the fourth celestial layer, you don't have the qualifications to become a disciple of any sect." Lu Chun frowned. "Then what about the fourth celestial layer's racial conflicts? More intense, more direct?" The little brother answered very briefly. "The army in the fourth celestial layer is not called an army. It's called the Immortal Army. It's formed by selecting outstanding disciples from the various major sections. Let's put it this way. The Immortal Army on the front lines is fighting almost every day." The little brother took a sip of wine. "You little brat, you have a lot of gold coins. I usually can't bear to drink this kind of feminine fragrance. All right, in the fourth celestial layer, there are no longer thousands of races. There are a total of 9 major races. Many races with blood relations eventually merged under the high intensity of the confrontation. Then does the human race have allies? Yes, the former nature elves and... I'm not too sure. You can only know the exact allies in the immortal army. Lu Chen was shocked. In a third celestial layer, the nature elves seemed to have many people who wanted to kill him. But in the fourth celestial layer, they actually became allies. Speaking of which, to be able to put aside the racial conflicts and become allies, it seemed that the battle for the immortal army was extremely cruel. Brother, don't ask about the immortal army. The immortal army is too far away. Let's talk about the sections. Lu Chen nodded. The little brother was right. Little brother, I see those people wearing gray robes. Are they disciples of the immortal pinnacle sect? You can say so, but they are only outer sect disciples. They often go down the mountain to buy some supplies. We can't see the real disciples of the immortal pinnacle sect. Lu Chen nodded. It seemed that the resources of the fourth celestial layer were monopolized by the immortal sect. But the immortal sect also provided manpower for the immortal army. If they rashly snatched the resources, it might affect the human race's battle at the front line. In the past, Lu Chen would snatch whatever resources he saw in the Jiutian. After all, it was a game. But from the third celestial layer onwards, Lu Chen understood a principle. From the third celestial layer onwards, if he had nothing to do and massacred a city, he might really kill a group of people. That would be killing the original bodies of those people. After all, they were from the same race. Lu Chen felt that it was better to keep a low profile. Then, little brother, how can I enter the immortal sect? They have an entrance test. There is one every week. The next test will be in 4 or 5 days. Lu Chen nodded. The time was just right. He could rest here for a while to recover. The little brother drank another cup of wine. Hey, brother, do you have a very strange feeling? And what feeling? The little brother laughed. So, the legendary immortal cultivation is actually in the Jiutian. Entering the immortal sect is the first step to becoming an immortal. Rogue immortals, TSK, TSK, TSK. Those super strong people that I didn't even dare to think about before all started here. Although the fourth celestial layer is extremely dangerous, it also makes one's blood boil. Chapter 550. With a big tree as your back, Extreme Immortal Town had already developed to some extent. There were all kinds of shops here, selling herbs, refining tools, refining talismans, etc. Living in the town was quite comfortable. During the day, Lu Chen would go out to buy some herbs. The disciples of the Extreme Immortal Sect would exchange some rare herbs for low-grade ones, which Lu Chen bought. When he had nothing to do, he would walk around. There were a few arenas and training grounds here. Usually, this was the most lively place in the town. People would spar here to prepare for the Extreme Immortal Sect's disciple recruitment. Lu Chen hadn't earned money in a long time. He spent it quickly, mainly to buy herbs for Lu Yi to refine pills. Sometimes, he would buy new weapons without hesitation. Lu Yi needed to refine pills to increase her alchemy level. Harry Ball needed pills. Limitless Sword needed equipment. Lu Chen, who was a tycoon, couldn't afford to feed these guys. In less than 2 days, Lu Chen moved from the sky room to the earth room. Damn, I only have 2,000 gold left. My 200 million gold. Fortunately, under Lu Yi's care, Lu Chen finally recovered. 1 day later, the town's largest arena was filled with people. The shops were closed early, and all the pedestrians gathered near the arena. From afar, he could see dozens of people coming down from the extreme immortal mountain. These people were wearing white robes. 4 or 5 of them were wearing robes with golden edges. Their status was very high. The leader was wearing a purple robe with golden edges. From afar, he raised his hands, and the dozens of people were already in the open space in front of the arena. Lu Chen frowned. What kind of teleportation skill is this? Mass teleportation. It's quite strong. Lu Chen noticed that these people seemed to be using different weapons. There were sabers, swords, spears, staffs, but there were also crystal balls, talismans, firearms. Perhaps the so-called immortal cultivation in the 9 heavens was not exactly the same as the immortal cultivation in Lu Chen's impression. The various professions of Jiutian seemed to have many possibilities in the later stages of development, and they were probably not weak. The purple-robed, middle-aged man took a step forward and said in a loud voice, "Today is the day that the extreme immortal sect is recruiting disciples. Since there are a lot of people here today, and we don't have much time, let's not waste any more words. As usual, we'll judge based on the results of the test." After saying that, the man took out a strange stone from his backpack and had his disciples move it onto the ring. If you want to take the test, you can come up and take the test. Remember, use your strongest attack in your strongest state. Don't think that a third heavenly layer is so powerful. If you want to conserve your strength here, don't blame me for not warning you if you can't enter the Celestial Pinnacle sect, because the test results don't reflect your strength correctly. After saying this, that person crossed his arms and didn't say anything else. Lucien was a little nervous now. He knew that Jiutian was a Xinxia game, but this was the first time he had such a clear feeling. Speaking of which, did Mu Xian and the people in the mountains, including Venerable Celestial Ling Tian, who played chess with heaven and left behind the heavenly might chess game, start from here? He didn't know what that stone was testing, but Lucien naturally wouldn't be the first to go up. He wanted to see what others were testing first. Soon, someone went up. The person who went up was an alien. He cupped his fists and bowed to the people of the Celestial Pinnacle sect. "Greetings, seniors of the Celestial Pinnacle sect. I entered the 4th heavenly layer 5 years ago and am now a 3rd heavenly layer." The people of the Celestial Pinnacle sect nodded to him, indicating that he could begin. Then, that person turned to face the testing stone. "Beast King Possession, Beast Blood Evolution, King of Beasts, Wild Strength, Battle Roar, Wild Beast Barrier." Lucien's eyes widened. That guy faced the stone and didn't even make a move. Instead, he gave himself a bunch of buffs. He even used his barrier. "Don't tell me he added all the buffs he could," Lucien said in shock. Hearing Lucien's words, the guy in front turned around and looked at Lucien in surprise. This person was the delivery guy. "Brother, it's you." The delivery guy pulled Lucien forward. Of course he would add all the buffs he could. "Do you think it's easy to enter the Celestial Pinnacle sect? There are more than 20,000 people here for the testing. Let me tell you, in the end, no more than 20 people will be selected. Moreover, most of them are outer sect disciples. I've been here for 13 years, and I've never heard of anyone entering the inner sect directly." "You've been here for 13 years? "Yes. Otherwise, would I be so poor that I have to work as a waiter?" Lucien thought about it and felt that it made sense. He didn't have much money left, but he could still stay in an earth room for a few months. At this moment, the guy in charge of the testing made his move. "Stampede of Beasts, Beast Tide." With a boom, that person threw nearly 100 punches. The entire stage rumbled and the ground trembled slightly. This damage should be very good. The testing stone's result is 200,000 damage per attack. 100 punches would be 20 million damage. Lucien nodded. That guy was very strong. 20 million damage per 10 seconds. Even if he was in his best state and had a barrier, this kind of damage was rare among Stage 3 experts. Not long after, the testing stone gave the result. Total damage, 98 million physical damage. Additional debuff, heavy injury, casting delay, weakened battle pet. Testing result, failed. This testing stone was quite powerful. It could measure both damage and debuff. Lucien almost spat out a mouthful of blood. 20 million damage was not passed. The Celestial Pinnacle sect's requirements were too high. The second person to go on stage didn't even deal as much damage as the Stampede of Beasts. Naturally, he was eliminated. Lucien was really curious. He asked the waiter, "Hey brother, how much damage does it take to pass?" The waiter frowned and shook his head. Actually, 20 million damage is enough to make you an outer disciple in the past. But I heard that recently, the Celestial Pinnacle sect sent a few batches of disciples to the Immortal Army. Their performance was barely satisfactory. The Celestial Pinnacle sect was severely scolded by the Immortal Army's leader several times. In a fit of anger, the sect leader requested to raise the entry requirements. Now it seems that with 20 million damage per 10 seconds and 3D buffs, you won't even be able to become an outer disciple. It's really difficult to enter the Celestial Pinnacle sect now. Lu Chun was a little depressed. Why was he randomly assigned to such a sect? How much damage did it take to successfully enter the Celestial Pinnacle sect? Oh, right. Brother, remember to use this kind of multi-attack skill. They only look at the total damage, not the individual damage. Deal as much damage as you can in 10 seconds. Don't hold back. In the morning, the strongest expert dealt 28 million damage in 10 seconds, but he was still eliminated. The group of people who were originally eager to give it a try could only shake their heads after confirming the new requirements of the Celestial Pinnacle sect. The waiter had a long face. I've been enduring hardships for 13 years, using all my money to buy pills to increase my attributes. I originally thought that I would definitely pass this time, but now, the Celestial Pinnacle sect is really too much. 28 million damage, and I can't even become an outer disciple. Sigh, could it be that I really don't have the fate to become an immortal? Lu Chun shook his head. He couldn't help with this matter. It had been a long time since someone went up on stage. Lu Chun knew that he couldn't delay any longer. The fourth heaven wasn't his destination. He wanted to go to a higher heaven domain, so he had to enter the Celestial Pinnacle sect. Is there anyone else who wants to take the test? A disciple of the Celestial Pinnacle sect walked out and asked the crowd. There was a lot of discussion below the stage. 2,800 damage. This kind of damage was eliminated. Does the Celestial Pinnacle sect think of themselves as a top sect? I heard that the Celestial Pinnacle sect is running low on resources and doesn't want to recruit new people. I don't know if they're purposely making things difficult for us. Don't talk nonsense. Their people are still here. Seeing that there was only one round of people below, the Celestial Pinnacle sect disciple shook his head. As expected, the good ones have already entered the sect. As for the rest, at this moment someone squeezed out from the crowd. Let me try. Everyone looked over and saw a man in red clothes step onto the stage. Lu Chun shook his head as he walked. Lu Chun didn't want to join any sect. Since he couldn't avoid this step, then becoming an outer disciple shouldn't be a bad choice. But the problem was that he didn't even know the standards. How much damage should he deal? Chapter 551. Lu Chun wondered if 30 million was enough. If he was on the safe side, 40 million should be enough. When he had just reached the third layer of heaven, Lu Chun's physical attack was about 300,000. But now, his level was full and Limitless Sword had devoured a lot of equipment. Now, without any buffs, Lu Chun's physical attack had reached 900,000 plus. He was only one step away from reaching 1 million. When the time came, he would activate Rapid Attack and Flash Shot and hit 40 punches. When the people from the Immortal Peak sect saw the guy on stage, they took 2 steps back. Lu Chun was about to hit the testing stone when he was stopped by someone. Kid, don't you know the rules? Introduce yourself first. Lu Chun then remembered that the others had introduced themselves before the test. He turned to look at the rostrum. Greetings to the seniors of the Immortal Peak sect. I have been in the 4th layer of heaven for 6 days. My military rank is militia. Someone beside him laughed. Militia? Hey kid, don't talk nonsense. We are all from the 3rd layer of heaven. Militia doesn't even have the qualifications to enter Tong Tian Tower. Lu Chun said, I was jointly recommended by 2-star power to participate in the tournament, and then I just happened to follow a very strong team. Lu Chun casually made up a reason. Your luck is so good. The 3rd layer of heaven even recommends militia? No wonder there haven't been any newcomers to the 4th layer of heaven recently. Kid, don't you know your own strength? Don't tell me you took some attack increasing medicine and wanted to bluff your way through. Let me tell you, the testing stone can measure the proportion of your strength. Once it exceeds 100%, you will be disqualified forever. Lu Chun's eyes widened. Damn, the 4th layer of heaven's testing stone was so advanced. It could even measure the proportion of strength. Then, wouldn't his plan to adjust the proportion of strength be useless? The purple-robed man said faintly, Su Sheng, don't waste time. Let him test quickly. After he is done, he still has to go back. Yes, Martial Uncle. Hey kid, hurry up and test. Don't waste our time. Lu Chun could only brace himself and test. War God Possession, Demon Transformation, Place of Death, Dragon Blood Boiling. While other players would toss out a bunch of amplification skills at the start of the battle, Lu Chun followed suit and used 4 amplification skills. With the addition of these 4 skills and the Madness passive, Lu Chen's current physical attack had soared to 1,600,000. This state was clearly much weaker than Lu Chen's strongest state. He still hadn't activated the 3 lives reincarnation, and he hadn't used his strongest 6 transformations yet. Even so, Lu Chen's damage was still frightening. Because Everlasting Sword had swallowed a lot of new equipment, Lu Chen's critical damage had increased by quite a bit. His double critical strike actually dealt about 4 times the damage, while a triple critical strike was about 6 times the damage. If it was a quintuple critical strike, it would be even more exaggerated, equivalent to 15 times the damage. A fierce tiger descends the mountain with 10 physical attacks and 100% critical strike. Even if it was the lowest double critical strike, it would definitely exceed 64 million. However, the problem was that it was impossible for all his attacks to be double critical strike. The chances of a triple or quadruple critical strike were not low. If there were a few critical strikes, it was possible for it to exceed 100 million. Most importantly, a fierce tiger descends a mountain did not even last a second. 40 to 50 million was Lu Chen's DPS, not the test results. Could it be that he had to stand there stupidly for the remaining 9 seconds? How annoying. He couldn't adjust the ratio of his strength. What if the damage was too high? It seemed that he could only turn off his combo attack talent and use normal attacks to slowly complete the 10 seconds. After thinking it through, Lu Chun began a punch. With one punch, there was a loud bang. The entire testing stone flew back more than a meter, and a fragment fell from the stone. 31 million quintuple critical strike. Lu Chun almost collapsed. Quintuple critical strike after one punch? With a 1% chance. Why was it so diligent? I've never seen it so diligent when fighting monsters. Looking at the fragment that fell from the stone, Lu Chun was terrified. What should he do? It had only been a second, and he had already lost 31 million. Unfortunately, the area around the ring, which had always been noisy, was now strangely quiet. The only sound that could be heard was the sound of the stone falling. Pah! It was exceptionally clear. What the F*** CK? Wasn't this testing stone able to withstand tens of millions of damage? Why was it broken with one punch? Lu Chun guiltily glanced at the people from the extreme immortal sect. It wasn't just the people from the extreme immortal sect. 80% of the audience had the same expression. Everyone's mouths were wide open, and they could fit 2 eggs inside. And my God, 31 million in one punch? What the F*** CK is this? He broke the testing stone. Could it be that the testing stone was broken from the very beginning? The delivery boy's jaw almost hit his own foot. No way, this guy. 30 million damage in one punch. That's more damage than 100 punches. The testing stone could withstand a large amount of damage, but the difference was that while other people dealt 10 seconds of damage, Lu Chun only dealt 1 punch. The purple-robed man took a deep breath and calmed down with great difficulty. Don't get too excited. He was just lucky to deal a 5 times critical hit. Martial Uncle, the highest I've seen is a 3 times critical hit. Where did a 5 times critical hit come from? Moreover, even if it was a 5 times critical hit, the damage would be 200%. His physical attack would be in the millions. The purple-robed man thought for a moment and quickly came up with an answer. It should be some kind of consummate skill. If I'm not wrong, this should be an extremely explosive single-target skill. Others can deal many punches, but he just combined them into a single attack to produce a shocking explosive power. As expected of their martial uncle, he was able to see the reason behind it with a single glance. Everyone was enlightened. Yes, I've also heard of this kind of skill. some single-target skills that consume a lot of energy, but the total damage is actually very high. It's just that these consummate skills are actually very weak. The damage is high, but once the opponent dodges, then all the previous efforts will be wasted. So that's how it is. If it was me and I had two skills, one is a skill that can deal multiple attacks, and the other is that guy's skill, I would definitely choose the former. Not only does a large number of attacks have endless variations, but the attacks are also continuous, causing more negative effects. It's much more useful in actual combat than this kind of all-or-nothing skill. The nature of the gamble is too heavy. If he hits, he can instantly kill the opponent. If he doesn't, then he's dead. This kind of consummate skill is definitely good to look at, but useless. I estimate that it's at most a heaven-level low-level skill. Junior brother, this kind of skill can't even reach heaven level. You guys should have seen his ultimate move. There was no change in the move. It was just like a normal attack. It was just a punch. Who do you think would stand there and let him hit them? This move can only hit the testing stone. If it was a real battle, I can play with him until he doesn't know north. At first glance, I was really shocked by him. But after listening to Marshall Uncle and Senior Brother's analysis, I've also been enlightened. The more everyone thought about it, the more they thought so, accumulating all the strength in his body to deal a fatal punch. But in the end, it was easily dodged. In actual combat, this kind of consummate skill was completely good to look at, but useless. No wonder he dared to go up on stage. It turns out that he has a consummate skill to deal with our test. TCH, militia is militia. Without experiencing the baptism of war, they only learn some useless skills. But Marshall Uncle, he's already reached our standard. You see, the purple-robed man shook his head. There are always people who take advantage of loopholes. But after all, the cutoff points were set by the sect master. If we don't recruit him, others will say that our extreme immortal sect is unfair. Sigh, this loophole, he really took advantage of it. Hey kid, don't fight anymore. You've already passed. Now you're already an outer disciple of our extreme immortal sect. After saying that, the purple-robed man didn't even look at Lu Chun. He waited for his disciple to take back the testing stone before leading everyone back to Extreme Immortal Mountain. Before leaving, the purple-robed man left behind a sentence. Disciples of Extreme Immortal Sect have to go to the battlefield. Although your consummate skills damage is high, it's useless. Using this kind of opportunistic method to enter Extreme Immortal Sect will only reap what you sow. You're on your own. Go back to Extreme Immortal Sect and report yourself. Lu Chun finally let out a sigh of relief. In any case, he had entered Extreme Immortal Sect. But that guy said something about consummate skill or consummate skill. When did I use a skill? Chapter 552. The group of people followed the purple-robed man and left, leaving only Lu Chun behind. The purple-robed man's words gave everyone a new understanding of Lu Chun's ultimate move, and it wasn't as amazing as before. So he entered the Immortal Apex sect through trickery. That's a pretty good idea. Let's go to the bookstore and see if there are any similar techniques. It's okay if the move is stupid, as long as it does damage. Let's go to the bookstore. The surrounding audience dispersed in a hubbub. Only the delivery boy stayed there and quickly ran to Lu Chun. Bro, ignore them. They don't know shit. The delivery boy said mysteriously. This is called strategy. They're all here to enter the Immortal Apex sect. As long as they can enter, why can't they use this technique? Right, bro? Lu Chun had a feeling of speechlessness. That was just a normal attack. Whatever, they could say whatever they wanted. In any case, Lu Chun's purpose in going to the Immortal Apex sect was to clear an instance in exchange for exchange scrolls. Bro, you're a member of the Immortal Apex sect from now on. If you have anything good to sell, remember to tell me. I've been outside for 13 years and haven't entered the sect yet. Lu Chun smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Don't be discouraged. If I have anything I need to exchange, I'll come to you. Okay, thank you, bro. You should hurry back. They seem to be looking down on you and won't take you with them. Just follow this path and go to the registration area first. You can stay on the Immortal Apex Mountain in the future. Lu Chun nodded. Okay, see you later. Lu Chan walked up the mountain path and soon saw some buildings. No one stopped him, so he went to register and receive the beginner's resources. Lu Chan wanted to continue walking up, but he was stopped by the resource officer. "Kid, don't go up. Outer sect disciples can't enter the inner mountain. Go to the residential area and familiarize yourself with your nest. Come back tomorrow to do your daily mission." Lu Chan turned around and walked towards the dormitory area. The celestial extremity mountain covered a vast area. Even an outer disciple like Lu Chan had his own wooden house. It was much better than the city of exiles. Lu Chan's house was simply furnished with a bed, a wardrobe, a table, and a chair. Opening the newcomer's package, there were bedding, bowls, chopsticks, 2 basins, and 3 sets of coarse gray robes. This kind of clothing was obviously made by a low-level tailor. It didn't have any attributes, but in the Apex Immortal sect, everyone had to wear the sect uniform. Only when they went out for a long time could they wear their own clothing. There was also a token inside the bag. It was the token of a disciple of the Extreme Immortal sect. Lu Chan saw that some of the disciples had it hanging on their waists. "This should be my ID card." Lu Chan repeatedly looked at his wooden plaque, which had the words Outer Sect written on it. Other than that, there was also a map and a booklet in the package. Obtained Celestial Extremity Mountain Map. Synchronizing Personal Map. In the 4th heaven, the use of the system was getting smaller and smaller. Fortunately, the map function could still be used. The system quickly loaded the Celestial Extremity Mountain Map into his personal map. Zooming in on the map, Lu Chan found that other than some buildings, there were also about 50 dungeons marked on the map. Each dungeon was numbered, and each dungeon had restrictions. There was no identity requirement to enter a dungeon. In theory, outer disciples could enter any dungeon, but each dungeon required a different sect contribution point. Dungeons 41 to 50 required 1 contribution point. Dungeons 31 to 40 required 2 contribution points, and so on. In the inner mountains, there was a treasure exchange center. Lu Chan guessed that rare items, such as attributes and items, could be exchanged there. The booklet recorded the rules of the Apex Immortal sect. Fighting and martial arts were allowed here, but everyone had to actively contribute to the sect's development. There is also a special rule that forbade relationships in the sect. "What the hell do you mean by forbade relationships?" Lu Chan shook his head. The most important thing for the Apex Immortal sect was to increase the strength of the disciples and replenish the blood of the immortal army. Therefore, most of the booklet was about cultivation requirements. Although the Apex Immortal sect didn't interfere with the disciples' cultivation arrangements, they had to cultivate at least 8 hours a day. Cultivation methods included theory classes, training in the martial arts field, challenging dungeons, cultivating spiritual power in the spiritual power cultivation area, and so on. These areas all had a check-in system, and everyone's cultivation time was strictly limited. Outer disciples had to complete at least 1 daily task every day, which was to do odd jobs and so on. This was the most stable way to earn contribution points. In addition, the sect regularly held various competitions, including internal competitions and friendly competitions with other sections. Those who won would receive a lot of contribution points. The rewards for internal competitions were less, but the rewards for representing the Apex Immortal sect against other sects were usually very generous. The most important part was naturally the Immortal Army selection. The Immortal Army selection will be held once every 3 months. From today onwards, the rules of the Immortal Army selection will be adjusted. The selection method will be changed from internal selection to disciples of the Immortal Army selection. Disciples who win will be able to enter the Immortal Army selection. Lu Chan frowned slightly. He had heard that the disciples sent by the Apex Immortal sect didn't perform well recently. This was probably the reason why the rules were changed. The sect master's meaning was probably, "Fine, if you think the people I chose aren't good enough, then you can choose yourselves." The sect master of the Apex Immortal sect is also hot-tempered. Lu Chan smiled slightly. After gaining a general understanding of the Apex Immortal sect, Lu Chan washed up and went to bed. Night fell. Lying on the wooden bed, Lu Chan looked at the moon through the wooden window. I really didn't expect that I would actually come here to cultivate. It feels like I've really entered a cultivation sect. But the cultivation here should be different from the TV shows I've seen before. There were dungeons, there was extraction, there was damage, there was critical hit, there were debuffs and buffs, there were 9 professions. The so-called immortal cultivation of the 9 heavens was indeed different from the immortal cultivation that Lucien knew before. The extraction of 4th heaven should be far more than 100 points. Then I won't be in a hurry to go to 5th heaven. I'll fill up my stats first. It's best to extract Taishuo. I wonder how it feels to use Taishuo in real life. The Disciples' Handbook says that the first 7 days don't cost any guild contributions, but after that, it costs 1 guild contribution per day. So I have to get used to the Apex Immortals sect as soon as possible. Lucien had been in 4th heaven for a week. Although he still didn't know much about 4th heaven and had only seen the tip of the iceberg, he was gradually starting to get on the right track. Every time he reached a new heaven, it was a new adventure that he had to explore on his own. Lucien quite liked this feeling. His cultivation journey had officially begun. Lucien was a little excited. Muxian, mountain people, what heaven were you guys in before? I've just entered a cultivation sect, and you guys are already loose immortals. I didn't have any concept of cultivation levels before, but now I know a little, and I can't find you guys anymore. In a daze, Lucien made a wish. Causing trouble every day is definitely not my intention. I also want to rest. From today onwards, I, Lucien, will definitely not cause trouble or stand out. I'll just be an ordinary outer sect disciple. I'll grind dungeons, trade for items, and do missions. I'll just be a comfortable and relaxed student. I'm such a good person who stands aloof from worldly affairs. God bless me. Please let my wish come true. Just as Lucien was about to fall asleep, his door was kicked open. You're 31 million with a single punch? Kid, we trained hard every day and spent a lot of money to enter the Apex Immortal sect. You actually used such an opportunistic method to sneak in? 31 million? You have the face to use such a flashy skill? Kid, from now on, you have to help us complete our daily missions. Otherwise, we'll beat you up every day until even your parents won't recognize you. Lucien opened his eyes slightly. There were more than 10 fierce-looking people at the door. He felt like they were about to rush in and beat him up. Lucien frowned and shook his head. My wish has been shattered a little too quickly. Chapter 553. After recovering from his serious injuries, Lucien fought his way from the 2nd celestial layer all the way to the 4th celestial layer. Lucien really planned to stop for a while and live a leisurely life. However, reality was always so cruel. He didn't look for trouble, but this time, trouble came looking for him. The dozen or so outer sect disciples heard about Lucien's test process from somewhere and were quite dissatisfied with his opportunistic way of entering the immortal sect. Lucien sat up and frowned as he looked at the dozen or so people. I say, are you guys really full of righteousness, or are you guys just looking for a newcomer to do things for you? Kid, you don't even call me senior brother. I think you're really arrogant. Looking at your sloppy appearance, I can tell that you're a troublemaker. We've seen a lot of newcomers like you. Which one of them isn't arrogant when they first arrive? Kid, remember this is the 4th heaven. Don't talk nonsense with him. Look at his unconvinced face. Beat him until he's convinced. 31 million? All right, your grandpa wants to experience your secret art. Come, let's see if you can even touch a strand of grandpa's hair. Lucien sighed. It seemed like these people were used to bullying others. But speaking of which, could he let others do the daily missions? If that was the case, he seemed to have found some decent migrant workers. Go, beat him to death. The group of people was about to swarm up when Lucien jumped out of the window. So it's a coward. Unfortunately, you want to escape from Grandpa's hands? Dream on. Lightning speed, 1,000 miles journey. Everyone revealed their identities and quickly caught up with Lucien. Lucien stopped in front of a remote forest. Seeing that the dozen or so people were about to catch up, Lucien sneered. Splitting Mount Hua. With a boom, the people in the outer sect area who were still sleeping were awakened by the loud noise. Is Big Brother Wrist educating newcomers again? I wonder which unlucky person is going to work for free again. Brother Wrist and his gang have earned quite a lot of sect contributions with this. Sigh. It's better not to meddle in other people's business. We can't afford to offend them. The extreme immortal sect didn't forbid disciples from fighting. As long as they didn't use physical damage skills, no one would care. This was exactly what Luchan wanted. Originally, the 9 dragon pillars of Heavenly Punishment's Mount and Splitting Strike could ignore all movement skills below the Heaven rank. These people's movement skills were directly crippled. In addition, they did not expect that guy to turn around and use the club. The group of people were hit by the club. The tree wants to be still, but the wind won't stop. Sigh. Lu Chun shook his head. You want to beat me to death? Sure, you like to fight with more people, right? Demon Doppelganger. Demon Kings will refresh. Demon Doppelganger. More than 30 doppelgangers swarmed toward the group of people. Adjust the ratio with force, 1/10. Give him a good beating. With 3 or 4 doppelgangers against 1 person and 5 consecutive attacks, these people would not be able to wake up. As Lu Chun had adjusted the ratio of force, the doppelganger's damage wasn't too high. Each attack only dealt a few tens of thousands of damage. This way, the battle that could have been finished in a few seconds suddenly became a battle of attrition. Ouch! It hurts! Stop! I'll kill you when I wake up. Why is there no end to the doppelganger passive effect? Despicable! You actually lower the ratio of force on purpose to torture us. You're lying. 1/10 of the force can't cause such high damage. My defense is very good. Lu Chun shook his head. To be able to wake up from the continuous attacks of 3 doppelgangers, the chances were very, very low. In addition, Lu Chen's main body was still squatting at the side, so they couldn't wake up from the stun. This group of people had around 10 million HP. As a human, this amount of HP was not bad. Half an hour later, Bro Wrist and the others were lying on the ground, wailing. Lu Chun didn't use any physical damage skills, but this kind of long-term punishment with a pain system was enough for them to endure. One of the brawny men was rolling on the ground and wailing while cursing. Don't your doppelgangers have a cooldown? Why do you keep being stunned? Why do you keep being stunned? If you give me a chance, I'll make sure you regret it. How dare you touch me? Kid, remember this. If you don't kill me today, I'll kill you tomorrow. At this moment, Lu Chun walked in front of him with a strangely shaped black and white double sword. Without saying anything, he raised his sword and cut off the man's arms. You really don't want face. I only want to teach you a lesson, but you better watch your mouth. Say one more word and I'll kill you. Do you believe me? The wailing around them suddenly quieted down. The others looked at the young man in shock. At first, they thought he was easy to bully, but now they realized that they were wrong, very wrong. This guy's cruelty was 10 times or even 100 times worse than theirs. Not only did he beat him up for half an hour, he also cut off Bro Wrist's arms without saying anything. He didn't even ask if Bro Wrist had a backer. He didn't even ask for Bro Wrist's name. This was too crazy. Since Bro Wrist's arms were cut off, the others didn't dare to make a sound. They were afraid of attracting the attention of this fiend, so they could only endure the pain. Even Bro Wrist wasn't as weak as before. He displayed amazing perseverance and didn't make a sound even after his arms were cut off. He didn't dare to make a sound. That guy said that if he made another sound, he would kill him. If it was someone else, he might not believe it, but he had to believe it now. This guy was a madman. He directly ignored the rules of Ultimate Immortal Sect and heavily injured his body. Lu Chun sat on Bro Wrist's stomach while Bro Wrist lay on the ground, not daring to move. Lu Chun kept his limitless sword and said faintly, "The few of you, come over here. Big brother, we have eyes but failed to recognize MT Tai. We don't dare anymore. Please, don't cripple our bodies. If our bodies are heavily injured, we won't even be able to do our daily missions and will be expelled soon. Yes, big brother, we were wrong. Please let us go." Lu Chun frowned and looked at Bro Wrist, who was under his butt. Bro Wrist cried when Lu Chun looked at him. "Well, you don't play by the rules. You said that you can't use skills that injure the body." Lu Chun frowned. "Why are you crying? It's just 2 arms. I don't believe that a bully like you doesn't have any savings. Just change it to a body regeneration pill, and you'll be fine. All of you come over here. Whoever dares to make excuses, I'll turn you into human rods." The moment the human rods came out, those 10 people were so scared that their faces were as white as ghosts under the moonlight. They scrambled and crawled in front of Lu Chun. "Big brother, don't cut. We really don't dare anymore." Lu Chun coldly snorted. "I just came here, and I already met you guys who bully the weak and fear the strong. I still want to have a few days of peace. How about this? From tomorrow onwards, you guys will help me complete the daily missions I accept. I will accept 60 missions a day. Each of you will help me complete 4 of them." 60? Big brother, this isn't good. Isn't this too much of a bully? "Yes, big brother. We are looking for newcomers to help us complete the mission. We can only do 1 mission a day. You want us to do 4 missions a day. You're even more ruthless than us. This is blatant exploitation." Lu Chun gave him a slap and snappily said, "Nonsense, of course I know this is exploitation. Whoever refuses to accept this, I will beat them up every time I see them. After beating them up during the day, I will help you to turn them into rods at night." Everyone sucked in a mouthful of cold air. They used to be the bullies here, but what kind of ghost did they provoke today? Chapter 554. The next day, Lu Chun went to pick up daily missions early in the morning. "Hey, newbie, you're picking up so many missions in one go. Are you picking up all of this month's missions?" Lu Chun smiled. "No, I'm finishing them today." Lu Chun squeezed out of the crowd with a smile and saw Brother Wrist and a dozen other people waiting for him dejectedly. "These are my missions for today. You can distribute them among yourselves. You'll be in charge. If there's a mission that isn't completed at night, I don't need to tell you the consequences, right?" Brother Wrist suddenly quivered. Yes. Boss, we know. Our disciple tokens are all with you. We can't run away even if we want to. Please rest assured, boss. These 60 missions will definitely be completed beautifully for you." Brother Wrist's arm had already grown back. It seemed like he had exchanged for the flesh regeneration pill. Lu Chun nodded with satisfaction. "Go." Before Brother Wrist and the others returned, Lu Chun had yet to contribute. He could only return to his room to cultivate his spiritual power. When it came to cultivating spiritual power, many people actually misunderstood one thing. That was that the 9 dragon pillars of heaven punishment were not the most valuable treasure of the heaven punishment tower. The real treasure was the mixed yuan cultivation method. The 9 dragon pillars were just the weapon of the wishful staff after it was upgraded at the Heavenly Works creation platform. It was considered a gift. Unfortunately, the mixed yuan cultivation method required a spiritual energy of 100,000 to start cultivating. Leveling up did not increase one's spiritual energy. That meant that even if Lu Chun had dual body Heaven's Wrath and increased the level limit by 100%, his spiritual energy was still the same as before. It was only 70,000. I still have 27,000 points to start cultivating the mixed yuan cultivation method. Lu Chun suddenly thought of Little Green. "Little Green, can you refine the spiritual energy immortal pill formula that you got last time?" "Boss, I can, but I'm just an 8-star alchemist. If I want to refine the spiritual energy immortal pill, the success rate is very low. Even with the mixed yuan medicine cauldron, it's only 5%. Also, boss, I don't have the ingredients for the immortal pill. They're all extremely rare herbs." Lu Chun nodded. The immortal pill was obviously not that easy to refine, so there was no need to rush it. "I don't know if there are any that are less effective. I can add a few dozen points each time." "Boss, do you want to take a look at the exchange market? I think there must be some pills in the 4th layer of heaven that can increase spiritual power." Lu Chun shook his head. "Outer sect disciples can only go to the inner mountain once a week. We'll wait for a few days before we go and take a look. There's no rush." It seemed that it would take some time before he could go to the inner mountains. Lu Chun could only follow the prescribed routine and complete his daily training schedule. After 8 hours of cultivation, Brother Wrist and the others still hadn't returned. Lu Chun took out a map from his backpack. This map was the one that Frost Dance had given him. Aren't you going to synchronize the system? Unable to identify the map, Lu Chen frowned. He was already at the fourth celestial layer, but he still couldn't identify it. It seemed like this place wasn't easy to find. In the evening, Brother Wrist and the others finally dragged their tired bodies back. From afar, they saw Lu Chun sitting at the door drinking tea and hurriedly rushed over. "Boss, the mission is complete. The things we need to buy and the consignment items have all been settled." As they spoke, they handed the mission items to Lu Chen. Lu Chen's mission tracking all showed mission completed. Lu Chen nodded. "You must be tired. Go back and rest. We'll continue tomorrow." Brother Wrist and the others took a deep breath. Boss, are we continuing tomorrow?" Lu Chen nodded. "Of course. It's taboo to give up halfway. We have to contribute to the sect every day. Otherwise, wouldn't the sect's contributions be cut off?" Brother Wrist and the others' expressions stiffened. "That's right. It's taboo to give up halfway. But you accepted the mission and asked us to do it." Of course, they could only hold back their opinions. This person was too scary when he was ruthless. Boss, can we reduce the number of missions? We complete 4 daily missions every day. It's already very late when we come back from outside. We still have to complete the daily cultivation mission. There's not enough time." Lu Chen thought for a moment and nodded. "What you said makes sense. I can understand your difficulties. How about this? I'll accept 600 missions every day." The group of people almost vomited blood. This was the result of understanding their difficulties. Lu Chun continued, "You don't have to be afraid. I won't let you do all 600 missions. I heard that there are many small groups like you in the outer sect who like to make others work for them. These people are especially disgusting." Brother Wrist almost couldn't help but shout, "Aren't you like that? And you've done this business to the extreme." Brother Wrist, bring me to their boss. I'm going to recruit them. One more person means one more person to share the mission. It's up to you how many you can find." Brother Wrist rolled his eyes. If he could pull people from other small groups over, it would be much easier for 600 people to do 600 missions together. The most important thing was that it was time for those who laughed at him today to have a taste of their own medicine. The next day, Lu Chen followed Brother Wrist and began to sweep through the outer sect area. Lu Chen wasn't sure how long the Immortal Peak sect had been around. Anyway, there were thousands of outer sect disciples. Many of them were like Brother Wrist in the past. They formed groups and bullied others. They forced others to do the daily missions for them while they collected the sect contributions. There were about a dozen such groups. Some were big and some were small. Brother Wrist's group was relatively small with a total of 15 people. The others had dozens or even hundreds of people. The total number of people was around 400 to 500 people. Within 2 days, the entire Outer Mountain area was filled with wailing and begging for mercy. An ordinary-looking young man wiped out all the small groups in the outer sect in 1 day. The number of his subordinates soared to 566 people. Lu Chen gave his small group a name, Mutual Aid Group. It meant that in his group, everyone would help each other and help him complete the daily missions. Brother Wrist and the other leaders almost vomited blood when they heard this explanation. However, when they thought of that guy's cruel methods, they could only swallow their anger. From the day the Mutual Aid Group was established, Lu Chen began to accept 566 daily missions every day. He could earn a few hundred sect contributions a day. A week later, Lu Chen already had a few thousand sect contributions. He was about to exchange them for something when he was informed that the inner mountain was temporarily closed to the outside world. "No way. How long will it be closed for?" The disciple said impatiently. "How would I know? Anyway, the inner mountain is now closed. No outer sect disciples are allowed to enter. We'll inform you when it reopens." Lu Chen looked in the direction of the inner mountain. There seemed to be some fighting sounds coming from inside. Could there be some competition going on inside? Many outer sect disciples were stopped outside. It seemed that there was something going on inside. Lu Chen could only leave gloomily. A month later, the inner mountain was still closed. But gradually, in the outer mountain region, a name became a topic that people couldn't avoid talking about. Solipsistic's Mutual Aid Group has come down the mountain again. Damn, it's so grand. Even doing a daily mission is so scary. Hey, do you guys think that Solipsistic is a good person or a bad person? I heard that he's very harsh on his subordinates. He always wants to turn them into human sticks. However, he doesn't seem to find trouble with others. Those people he recruited were all people who bullied others in the past. He's very kind to everyone else. I heard that too. He doesn't put on airs with ordinary people. Also, after he came, did you guys notice that other than his group, no other group forced others to do missions? Actually, I feel that he's very low-key. How strong is he? It's said that he hasn't participated in a single martial arts competition. Some people even say that his strongest move can't hit anyone at all. However, he can subdue all the small groups. It seems unrealistic that he doesn't have any strength. Hey, don't ask. Anyway, whether that guy is good or bad, he's definitely a ruthless person. Don't provoke such a ruthless person. Right now, he's the biggest underground boss of the extreme immortal sect. You definitely can't provoke him. Don't talk like he's invincible. Let me tell you, a tall tree attracts the wind. Why didn't the previous groups have more than 100 people? The inner sect disciples are still watching. Now that Solipsistic's mutual aid group has expanded to 500 people, I'm guessing that someone is going to target them. The inner sect disciples don't have time to care about our matters right now. An insider suddenly said, I heard that another sect wants to annex our extreme immortal sect. Right now, all the inner sect disciples are urgently preparing for war. Annex? Really? And otherwise, why would the inner sect be closed for so long? It's to deal with this huge change. Let's hope that they can withstand it. Once they're annexed, our original contributions will all be reset to 0. Not far away, a certain person's eyes were filled with shock. He had worked so hard for more than a month to earn just over 10,000 contributions. Was it going to be reset to 0? Chapter 555. After hearing that the extreme immortal sect was going to be annexed, Lu Chun wasn't in the mood to accept missions every day. He had earned quite a lot of sect contributions, but he couldn't spend them now. It would be such a waste if they were to be reset to 0. Half a month later, Lu Chun woke up early. As soon as he opened the door, he realized that the atmosphere was off. Not long after, the outer sect disciples in charge were running around in a hurry. Everyone, gather at the practice field. Don't your daily routines or cultivate today. Go to the practice field. This group of people looked panicked as they knocked on the door one by one. Someone went to the school to report to someone. It seemed that the matter was urgent. One of the mission officers saw Lu Chun. Normally, Lu Chun would accept hundreds of missions at a time, so the two could be considered acquaintances. That person hurriedly ran over. Brother, you have a lot of subordinates. Can you help? Tell your people to spread the word and have all the outer sect disciples gather at the practice field in the inner mountains. Lu Chun pulled that person back. What happened? Hey, the people from the outer sect are here. It's a big group. It's too sudden, so the higher-ups want us to gather all the disciples at the practice field. Lu Chun frowned. Are there a lot of people from the outer sect? Not many, but there are many sections. I saw a few famous experts come with their sections. Hey, I don't know why they're not letting go of our extreme immortal sect. It seemed that the mission officer's knowledge was limited. However, Lu Chun already knew that the people from the outer sect were here. Brother Wrist and a group of people stood in front of Lu Chun's house. Boss, do we still have to do missions? This group of people was usually arrogant, but after being disciplined by Lu Chun for more than a month, they were now very obedient. Lu Chun glared at them. Do you still need to ask? Go. Have your subordinates help them spread the word. Then go to the practice field. After being in the extreme immortal sect for so long, this was the first time Lu Chun entered the inner mountains. It was said that the inner sect disciples of the extreme immortal sect had a systematic training method, unlike the outer sect disciples who were completely free. From the outer mountain to the inner mountain, there were many inner sect disciples standing by the side of the road. The entire inner mountain was heavily guarded. At this time, there was probably no one in the exchange store, so Lu Chun obediently followed the crowd to the training field. At this moment, A tall ring was erected in the training field. On the east side of the arena was the rostrum, which was at the same level as the arena. At this moment, there were several hundred people standing on it. The innermost, western, and northern sides were filled with apex immortal sect's inner disciples. On the southern side, there were several groups of disciples dressed in different attire. They seemed to be disciples from other sections. The number of outer sect disciples was the highest, and they stood at the outermost perimeter. At this moment, an old man dressed in golden clothes was standing in the huge arena. It was unknown if the golden clothes had any attributes, but it was definitely eye-catching enough. The old man looked below the arena, then at the people on the rostrum. Seeing that the other side gave him a signal, he said, "I see that most of the people are here. Now, let me make the announcement. I am an elder of the Human Race United Front Alliance. In view of the extreme immortal sect performance in the immortal army for the past 3 years, we believe that the extreme immortal sect's management and training are too lax. They are unable to provide strong new blood for the immortal army. Since that is the case, we will consider whether to merge the extreme immortal sect. Of course, in order to merge the extreme immortal sect, we must first prove our strength. According to our old rules, the sect that wants to merge the extreme immortal sect must send 5 disciples. The extreme immortal sect must also send 5 disciples. It will be a one-on-one battle. In other words, each disciple is not limited to the number of battles they can fight until they are defeated. The final winner will have the right to speak. Currently, there are 12 sects that want to merge the extreme immortal sect. The extreme immortal sect must send out 60 disciples to fight. If more sects win, they will have to fight again to determine which sect the extreme immortal sect will merge with. Lu Chen frowned. The United Front Alliance's decision seemed to give the extreme immortal sect a way out. However, 12 sects had come at once. Each sect had sent out 5 of their strongest disciples, but the extreme immortal sect had to send out 60 people. Besides, the reason the extreme immortal sect was merged was because the disciples were too weak. In this situation, no matter what schemes they had, they would not work. They would definitely lose. It was no wonder that the other sects had brought so many people. They were thinking that after taking down the limitless sect, they would have to compete with the other sects for the final ownership. Lu Chen looked back at Brother Wrist. "Hey, if we get merged, won't we lose all our sect contributions?" Brother Wrist hurriedly replied, "Big brother, you saw it too. Our sect contributions are extreme immortal sect's sect contributions. We can only exchange for things at the extreme immortal sect's exchange shop. If we change our sect contributions will be useless. Big brother, sect contributions are a small matter. If we really get merged, we might even be dismissed. It's fine for inner sect disciples to become outer sect disciples, but we might have to say goodbye." The person beside Brother Riss said, "I heard that the outer sect disciples of other sects have to complete at least 5 daily missions every day. It's a mandatory rule. In order to cultivate inner sect disciples, they use outer sect disciples as laborers. That's not too much. I heard that their outer sect disciples have a special exchange shop. They can only exchange for trash. And we cultivate for 8 hours a day here. That's more than enough time. Moreover, our exchange shop treats all inner and outer sect disciples equally. We still have hope here. If we go to other sects, we'll be outer sect disciples for life." It was only at this time that everyone realized the benefits of their predecessors. Lu Chen's frown deepened. The reason why the extreme immortal sect didn't perform well might be related to this strategy. The other sects spent all their energy on their top disciples, but the extreme immortal sect gave everyone a chance. It was just that this way, when the top disciples were compared, the difference was obvious. They were like 2 businessmen. One was profit-driven, while the other had a conscience. Perhaps the profit-driven one would earn more money. No matter what, Lu Chen's heart ached the most for his sect contributions. His 18,000 sect contributions were all useless. What the hell? The people of the United Front Alliance got off the stage. At this time, the sect leader of the extreme immortal sect teleported onto the stage. It was Lu Chen's first time seeing the sect leader of the extreme immortal sect. This person's ID was Nantion. He was a middle-aged man with a well-proportioned body. He wore a white robe and had an extraordinary aura. When this person got on the stage, he bowed deeply to all the disciples of the extreme immortal sect. I, Nantion, have let down the sect leaders of the extreme immortal sect and all the disciples of the extreme immortal sect. I don't deserve to be the sect leader of the extreme immortal sect. The disciples of the extreme immortal sect were silent. Only the disciples of the other sects were still chatting and laughing. Nantion stood up straight and looked below the stage. But I don't regret it. The human race on the front line is in imminent danger. This situation has been going on for hundreds of years. I've thought about why we can't defeat the enemy. Perhaps it's because of our racial talents. We humans are physically weak, but we have the advantage in numbers. Wave after wave, we may still be able to fight. The immortal army needs top powerhouses. This is true. Weak people will only die on the battlefield. However, where do top powerhouses come from? Talent, family nurture, personal encounters, and so on can all create talent. But what is the mission of the extreme immortal sect? Is it to provide these so-called geniuses with unlimited resources? In my opinion, only by giving all the disciples a chance to become strong can we truly form an invincible army of the human race. Everyone is a soldier. Together, wave after wave, this is the only way out for the human race. Our 10 billion people are all dragons and tigers. Why should we fear the foreign races? Unfortunately, I don't have time. My plan has failed in the end. Chapter 556. Today is the day of our extreme immortal sect's survival. I have already chosen 60 of our strongest disciples to fight for our extreme immortal sect. No matter what the result is, I hope that all of you who were once members of our extreme immortal sect will remember that these people fought for you. Let's begin. With that, Nantion teleported back to the rostrum. Lu Chen glanced at Nantion from afar. At this time, although Nantion tried his best to appear calm, anyone could imagine how torturous his mood was at the moment. The first group to fight was the Blue Cloud sect. There were 5 of them in green robes. Then, the Immortal Peak sect also sent 5 people to fight. The 2 sides stood on both sides of the arena. After a short discussion, they decided on the order of their fights. Seeing these 2 groups of people, the audience began to discuss. The first fight is the Blue Cloud sect. They're trying to intimidate us. What intimidating? Do you think we still have a chance to win? Out of the 12 matches, we can't lose even a single match to protect our Immortal Apex sect. They've only chosen the 5 strongest people from their sect. Our top 60 against their 12 top 5. Even though they have the same number of people, their quality is on a completely different level. Can we let the top 10 fight a few more fights? Are you kidding? They are all in the top 5 and are stronger than us. It's not easy to win one fight. Do you think they can fight a few more fights? Stop talking and watch the fight. This may be the last fight for our sect. The first fight had already begun. You didn't let your senior brother fight? The first person to fight from the Blue Cloud sect was Julie. He raised his chin slightly and looked at his opponent. So, you want to give up this fight? We don't need my senior brother to fight against the Blue Cloud sect. If you want to take over the Immortal Peak sect, you have to get through me first. Julie sneered. You are not worthy. Spirit summoning, demon god Chi-Yu. With a boom, a huge figure suddenly appeared in the arena. It was the legendary war god Chi-Yu. Lu Chen's eyes widened. This guy summoned Chi-Yu. Juicy and the others had summoned Quafu once, but due to the rules of the first layer of heaven, Quafu was unable to unleash his full strength and was defeated by Bone King. However, Bone King was a rare boss that could break through dungeons. Quafu was more than enough to deal with an ordinary player. Was this the strength of a late-stage spirit controller? This class that had been suppressed by the other class advancement path, Beast Tamer, was actually so terrifying. It seemed like the 9 professions were all in the later stages of development, and all of them had considerable strength. The battle on the field was intense. The first person from the extreme immortal sect to go up was a martial monk. He wasn't weak. He had the 3,000 world barrier and had many negative statuses. However, the monk had to get close to the opponent, but the opponent had Chiyu guarding, and his defense was impregnable. After dozens of exchanges, the monk couldn't get close at all. Instead, Chiyu took advantage of his weakness and used a series of skills to finish him off. Jiuli stood beside the giant Chiyu. He raised his chin slightly and sneered. The strength of your limitless sect should be like this. Such a sect still occupies such a good spiritual source. It is simply a waste of God's gift. Other than your eldest senior brother, who has some fighting strength, the others are a bunch of trash. I can't be bothered to waste my breath on you. Next, come up and die. Jiuli was quite strong. Not only could he summon Chiyu, but he could also summon Xing Tian. After 3 rounds, he was unscathed and defeated 3 people in a row. When the third person was defeated again, there was already a commotion below the stage. Everyone from the Limitless sect had heavy expressions as they shook their heads and sighed. This is too strong. Is the Azure Cloud sect so terrifying? Oh my God, this is called a martial arts competition. This is clearly a slaughter. The first team can't even defeat 1 person, right? In comparison, the disciple from other sects didn't have it easy either. Jiuli is indeed very strong. After we take down the extreme immortal sect, we have to find someone to suppress him. This guy is actually unscathed. The Chiyu demon god is both offensive and defensive and has his own battle intent barrier. It is very difficult to get close to Jiuli's main body. Moreover, that guy also has Xing Tian. If the 2 demon gods attack at the same time, it will indeed be troublesome. As expected of the top 3 in the Azure Cloud sect's arena, I think only the Immortal Sword sect and the Sunset Peak can suppress that guy. Looks like the Extreme Immortal sect will eventually be merged into the Azure Cloud sect, Immortal Sword sect, and Sunset Peak sect. I just don't know who will take it down in the end. Do you guys think the Extreme Immortal sect has any hope of winning this round? Perhaps their goal is to win this round. That's why their eldest senior brother and the strongest few don't want to fight a strong team like the Azure Cloud sect. The competition continued. When Jiuli was at full health, he actually went down himself. He said that he wanted to give his junior brothers and sisters a chance to practice, but even Jiuli's junior brothers and sisters were quite strong. In the end, they defeated all 5 from the Limitless sect and won the first round. Lu Chun shook his head. The first round had already announced that the Extreme Immortal sect would be annexed. Now, the other sects were waiting to see who would take down the Extreme Immortal sect. As for the Extreme Immortal sect disciples, they were fighting with their last breaths. The Extreme Immortal sect lost 7 rounds in a row. The 8th round was between the Extreme Immortal sect and the Green Pine Mountain. Behind them, Brother Wrist was especially excited. It's eldest senior brother, second senior brother, and third senior sister. They're finally going up. The Green Pine Mountain's strength isn't as strong as the other sections. Now that we've sent out our strongest team, we finally have a chance of winning this round. The Extreme Immortal sect can't be protected anymore. Now, we only hope to win this round. The eldest senior brother of the Extreme Immortal sect was wearing a purple robe. This was the symbol of an inner disciple. He was Nanshan's disciple and was the strongest in the Extreme Immortal sect. He had been in first place in the arena for many years. The other 5 people on the stage were also in the top 5 of the arena. The 5 strongest people of the Extreme Immortal sect officially went up the stage. However, when this team that carried all the hopes of the Extreme Immortal sect went up the stage, Lu Chun noticed a small detail. The eldest senior brother, Hua Yu, actually nodded slightly to the other party, and the other party also nodded back. This small action didn't arouse suspicion. Could it be because the eldest senior brother was low-key and modest? As soon as the round started, the eldest senior brother stepped forward and cupped his fists. "I, Hua Yu, Admit defeat for this round. As soon as these words came out, the audience gasped. What? The eldest senior brother admitted defeat? What's going on? He's our last hope. Why did he admit defeat? What's going on? Eldest senior brother, don't admit defeat. If you lose, not only will our extreme immortal sect be destroyed, we'll also be ridiculed by others. In a battle of life and death, we didn't even win a single round. Our extreme immortal sect will become a laughingstock, and we... Huayu turned to look at the crowd, then cupped her fist towards Nantian. Master, martial uncles, martial brothers and sisters, my strength used to be mediocre. After receiving Master's guidance, I improved by leaps and bounds. Only then did my potential truly come into play. But from now on, I have to be like everyone else. Every day, I have to cultivate and attend classes. Our extreme immortal sect clearly has so many resources, but they don't give them to me. My strength has been delayed again and again. The more Huayu spoke, the more agitated she became. Her eyes were filled with resentment. Why does an expert like me have to be like everyone else? Why can't Master give all the resources to me alone? If I could be like the other elite disciples and enjoy more resources, how could our extreme immortal sect be so mediocre in the immortal army? Why do I have to compete with a bunch of trash for resources? Lu Chan frowned slightly. This guy was his senior brother. It seemed that the story of extreme immortal sect was very interesting. He looked towards the rostrum. At this moment, Nantian, who had been silent all this time, was trembling slightly. He took half a step back and only fell because someone supported him. With such a disciple, he was probably completely disappointed. However, the extreme immortal sect was already gone. No one could say anything about Huayu's public betrayal. Not only did Huayu betray herself, but she also brought her junior brothers and sisters with her. This group of people directly surrendered. The strongest 5 people directly surrendered. The rest of the competition was even less suspenseful. Although those disciples still fought with all their might, the difference in strength was too great. After 12 rounds, the extreme immortal sect was completely wiped out. It's over. The extreme immortal sect is gone. Boss, we're all going to become homeless people. Brother Wrist's eyes were filled with hopelessness. Lu Chan frowned slightly. Was his sect contributions really going to be gone? More than 10,000 sect contributions. If they were thrown into the water, there would still be a splash. If they were gone just like that, this was really intolerable. Chapter 557. The 60 experts of extreme immortal sect were all annihilated. Eldest senior brother even colluded with the other sects and surrendered. This time, extreme immortal sect suffered a crushing defeat. The elder from a human race united front went up the stage again. He glanced at the pale Nantian. That guy's heart had probably given up. No matter what, the result was obvious. Everyone, extreme immortal sect, lost all 12 matches. Nantian, your inner sect disciples no longer have the right to participate. From now on, there will be no more extreme immortal sect in the 4th layer of heaven. Do you have any objections? Nantian was in a daze. He lost the match and lost his faith. At this moment, he was completely disheartened. How could he have any objections? Elder Qinshi, I have no objections. Nantian said helplessly. Elder Chun, she looked at all the extreme immortal sect disciples below the stage. From today onwards, extreme immortal sect will be merged. You will also be included in the new sect. All your past in the sect will be cleared. Next, all the sects, please choose your candidates for the final competition. Each team will have 5 people. Wait. At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out from below the stage. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice. A young man wearing a gray robe squeezed out from the crowd and walked towards the stage. What's going on? Who is that guy? He seems to be an outer sect disciple of extreme immortal sect. I wonder what he wants to do at this time. The elders of extreme immortal sect, including Nantian, were all stunned. They didn't know why this person stood out. Hey, what are you doing? Elder Qinshi frowned and looked at that person. The person who walked out was Lu Chen. He stood below the stage and said loudly, "I don't agree with the merger of extreme immortal sect." The moment these words came out, the entire stage almost exploded. What? That guy doesn't agree with the merger? What does that mean? Are you kidding me? An outer sect disciple actually dares to say that he doesn't agree with the merger. What right does he have to speak here? Is extreme immortal sect so unruly? What's the meaning of an outer sect disciple jumping out at such an important occasion? On the main stage, an outer sect leader said coldly, "Kid, do you know what kind of occasion this is? You're just an outer sect disciple. Do you think you have the right to speak? Get the hell out of here." Lu Chan frowned as he looked at the person who spoke. Looking at his attire, he seemed to be the Qing Yun sect's sect leader. Lu Chan coldly snorted, as if he hadn't heard anything, and leaped onto the stage. As soon as he got on the stage, Lu Chan sighed as he looked at the crowd below. "Sigh, I promised to be a quiet student, but I didn't even have the chance to fulfill such a simple request. Is it so difficult to live a peaceful life? There was no other way." For the sake of more than 10,000 sect contributions, he could only go up on stage. "Elder Chen Shi, you just said that the inner disciples no longer have the right to challenge, right?" Elder Chen, she sized up the young man. Other than his bright eyes, there was nothing special about him. "That's right. You've already weighed the pros and cons when you were selecting the candidates. You've lost all 12 matches, so naturally, you don't have the right to challenge anyone else." Lu Chen nodded. "Oh, then since I'm an outer sect disciple, do I have the right to challenge you?" The foreign sect formation burst into wild laughter. "Ha ha ha ha. Did you hear what he said? An outer sect disciple wants to challenge the sect's top experts. Ha 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 ha. I'm dying of laughter. Hey kid, don't you think your Immortal Peak sect has lost enough face? You've lost all 12 matches, and eldest senior brother led the rebellion. Now it's even funnier. An outer sect disciple wants to go up on stage to challenge you. Kid, don't tell me you want to challenge 60 experts by yourself. Don't waste time. Hurry up and get off the stage." At this moment, Brother Wrist and the rest of Lu Chen's subordinates were all dumbfounded as they looked at Lu Chen on stage. Damn, that guy actually went up on stage? He wants to challenge them? Beat him to death. Who asked him to abuse us like that? Actually, I used to hate him a lot. But now that the Immortal Peak sect is about to be destroyed, he still dares to go up on stage. At least I admire his courage. Brother Wrist shook his head. Indeed, for him to stand up at this time, Iron Wrist, admire him. On the rostrum, it was unknown which elder or sect leader spoke up again. "Ignorant kid, even your sect leader has no objections. You, an outer sect disciple, want to overturn the heavens. Get off the stage. You don't have the right to speak here. Indeed, a bunch of undisciplined idiots. Wait till you merge with our Immortal Sword sect. Then I'll let you know what rules are." Lu Chen didn't care about what the others said. He only looked at Elder Chen Shi. "Elder, don't care about what they say. I just want to ask you, is what I said reasonable or not?" Chen Shi frowned. Outer sect disciples were usually anonymous. Therefore, when the rules were set, the opinions of the outer sect disciples weren't considered. "Kid, I know you have resentment in your heart. The rules do state that only inner sect disciples and above can challenge. However, there's no point in you finding loopholes in the rules. The reason why outer sect disciples are outer sect disciples is because your strength isn't enough to enter the inner sect. Even inner sect disciples were defeated. Tell me, what else do you want to challenge? Moreover, your Immortal Peak sect lost all 12 times. Don't tell me you want to challenge the 60 strongest people from each sect. Kid, get off the stage. Don't waste our time." Lu Chen heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he found a loophole. "Elder Chen Shi, you guys have always emphasized on following the rules. Since the rules didn't state that outer sect disciples are not allowed to challenge, that means that I have the right to challenge." Lu Chen smiled. "As for the outcome of the competition and how I can challenge the 60 strongest experts, you don't have to worry about that." Lu Chen turned around and looked at the outer sect disciples. He then looked at the main stage and said loudly, "I, an outer sect disciple of Immortal Peak sect, don't agree with you guys annexing Immortal Peak sect. Aren't you guys very strong? You can't be afraid of me, an outer sect disciple, right? Don't tell me you guys don't even dare to accept my challenge? Sigh, you guys look so fierce, but you're all cowards. If you guys are afraid and think that your disciples aren't my match, you can come up to stage yourselves. I'll accept all of your challenges. Being challenged by an outer sect disciple and scolded as a coward, the various sect leaders' faces darkened. Bastard, a mere outer sect trash dares to talk to us like that. If it weren't for my status as a sect leader, I wouldn't have torn your mouth apart. Arrogant. A sect leader shouted angrily. Good, you want to stand out? Sure. You want to fight 60 people by yourself? Why don't you accept his challenge? 60 people will take turns to go up the stage and teach this arrogant guy a lesson. Let him know the price of speaking without thinking. The Qing Yun sect leader said, Kid, you better think it through. We have rules for inner sect disciples to fight. We can't injure the body. But you also know that outer sect disciples have never challenged each other before. The rules also don't have any rules for outer sect disciples. So if you anger us like this, the consequences will be very serious. Lu Chen snorted. You guys don't have rules, but I do. If you want to fight with me, then I'll fight with you too. If someone uses a technique that injures the body, then I'm sorry, I'll send you back to your mother's womb. Master, accept his challenge. We must make this unruly bastard pay the price. You dare to insult my master, but it's not convenient for my master to make a move. Then let me personally torture you to death. Yes, master, accept his challenge. I'll teach this arrogant kid a lesson later. The various sects were all excited, but Lu Chen didn't care. His goal was to anger these people and make them accept his challenge. Chun Shi looked at the situation. Right now, it seemed like no one was against this outer sect disciples challenge. The people involved didn't care, so he naturally didn't care either. After thinking for a while, Chun Shi said, Qing Yun's sect leader Kanshin's words make sense. Kid, you're not challenging a sect, you're challenging the rules. So, you have to fight 60 people at the same time. As long as you lose, no matter which one you lose, the 12 sects will still fight for the ownership of the extreme immortal sect. If you win against those 60 people, then the extreme immortal sect will not be merged. Lu Chan shrugged his shoulders. I only want a chance to challenge. As for the specific rules, you guys do as you please. Chapter 558. I've never seen such an arrogant person. He's just an outer sect disciple, and yet he's so arrogant. I can't wait to teach him a lesson. Kill him. Let me be the first. I can't take it anymore. A group of people went up the stage, all of them in a state of rage. Brother Wrist grabbed his subordinate's wrist. Damn it, why am I so nervous? Don't you think I'm cheap? I've always been ordered around by him. Now I'm actually nervous. Brother Wrist, I'm also a little nervous. That guy is too arrogant. If you don't look at the result, he's already helped us vent our anger. No matter what, he represents our extreme immortal sect. He's our last hope. Hope my ass. I think he'll be beaten until his own mother can't recognize him. Sigh, at least he has some backbone. It's not a waste to call him boss for more than a month. Nan Tian was completely disheartened, and only now did he realize what had happened. He frowned at the young man on the stage and said to the two people behind him, Elder Jiasen, is that person taking things too hard? He didn't expect that there would be someone more desperate than him. Sect Master, should we go and stop him? Nan Tian hesitated for a moment. Now that Elder Chun, she has agreed to his challenge, it's too late for us to stop him. Let's wait and see. If they try to kill him, the two of you must save his life. Leave it to us. The two elders bowed and accepted the order. On the stage, the 60 people in front of Lu Chan were already rubbing their fists, eager to give it a try. Kid, if we don't skin you alive today, our Shinwu sect won't stop. Let me go first. I'll break one of his arms first. Everyone, let me go first. I promise I won't kill him. I'll help you vent your anger. Is that okay? Everyone looked at the person who spoke. It was Jiu Li from the Azure Cloud sect. Jiu Li's strength was obvious. The number of people here who were stronger than him could be counted with one hand. Since he had spoken, no one dared to speak up. Everyone from the extreme immortal sect sucked in a breath of cold air. Gioli is going to go first? This is a direct slap to death. They don't want that kid to be in the limelight at all. Gioli was the first to be seriously injured, and then the rest of the team will be tormented. I'm afraid that kid will really die in the arena. Should we go? Us? Big brother, let's be realistic. Although we don't feel good, the difference in strength is too great. This is like a moth trying to break through a trap, an egg trying to break a rock. Not only will it be useless, but it will also become the laughingstock of the extreme immortal sect. While they were talking, the competition was about to begin. Liu Chen's first opponent was Gioli. Standing in front of Liu Chen, Gioli sneered. "Rude dog, I'll make you regret it immediately." Liu Chen smiled faintly. "I haven't met a powerful spirit controller yet. More powerful? Oomph. Kid, you really are the most arrogant outer sect disciple I've ever seen. Soon, you'll know the gap between us. It's something you'll never be able to surpass in your lifetime." Liu Chen curled his lips. "I heard that a spirit controller's battle spirit is very difficult to kill. Is that true?" "Nonsense. You want to kill Xing Tian and Qi Yu? Dream on." Liu Chen nodded. It seemed that it was quite challenging. The competition entered the countdown. The two elders of the extreme immortal sect were already standing at the side of the arena. However, several elders from other sects suddenly appeared beside them. They didn't say anything and just stood behind Elder Jia and Elder Jia Xian. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that if the elders of the extreme immortal sect made a move, the other elders wouldn't just stand by and watch. Life and death were on the line. If they delayed for even a moment, that outer sect disciple would probably die. Nan Tian angrily looked at the other sect leaders, but they didn't notice. They didn't explain anything and just continued to watch the competition. These guys really wanted that kid's life. Nan Tian frowned. What should he do? 3, 2, 1. The competition began. Spirit Controller Summon. War God Xing Tian. A giant god appeared in front of Gioli. Xing Tian didn't reveal his identity. His face grew on his stomach. He held a one-handed axe that was over 10 meters long and a giant shield in his other hand. He stood in the middle of the arena, his might shocking everyone. Liu Chen frowned slightly. "Hey, aren't you going to use Qi Yu? Against you, even summoning Xing Tian would dirty his blade." Giuli coldly snorted. Liu Chen shook his head. He raised his hand, and a strange black and white weapon slowly appeared in the air. "Xing Tian it is. I'm also looking forward to fighting against such a legendary character." When a limitless demon god appeared, everyone present felt their weapons tremble slightly. When a limitless demon god appeared, he reigned supreme. What's going on? My dark iron spear is resonating. What grade weapon is that guy's sword? Could it be a divine weapon? That's impossible. There are a total of 9 divine weapons in the 4th heaven, and they are all unique in the entire server. They already have owners. Julie stared at the weapon in Liu Chen's hand with his eyes wide open. "What weapon are you using? Why can't I recognize it?" Liu Chen snorted. "You speak as if you recognize all the weapons. I have many things that you don't recognize. Do I need to explain them to you one by one? Don't be nervous. I won't kill you for now. I want to practice with this legendary war god first." As soon as he said that, everyone's brows were knitted together. What? He wants to fight the war spirit instead of the main body? That guy is crazy. Although Xing Tian is slightly inferior to Qi Yu, his strength is still not to be underestimated. Normal players can only avoid him and finish off the spirit controller as soon as possible. Forget it. He probably knows that he's going to die. Let him do whatever he wants. Liu Chen stood in front of Xing Tian like an ant. At this moment, Liu Chen was a little excited. The one standing in front of him was actually Xing Tian. Xing Tian. Legend had it that Xing Tian had once fought with the Yellow Emperor and was not at a disadvantage. Although he lost to the Yellow Emperor in the end, his uncompromising spirit would always inspire the future generations. Xing Tian danced in the sky, his ferocious will always be there. War God Xing Tian, let me see how strong you are. Julie was furious. That guy didn't take him seriously at all and was actually talking to the war spirit. Damn it, I'm going to kill you. Xing Tian, chop him into mincemeat. Fighting spirit barrier. With a boom, the entire arena was surrounded by a faint red gas. A few debuffs appeared on Lu Chen's body. Loss of fighting spirit. Rage-type skills are prohibited. Cowardice. Attack speed reduced by 46%. Movement speed reduced by 40%. Attack accuracy reduced by 30%. At the same time, Xing Tian had an additional buff. Fierce will. Rage will be gained from attacking or being attacked. Lu Chen frowned slightly. He only had one rage-type skill, which was Universal 8 Desolation. Its damage was very high, and it was a heavenly might-type skill. Xing Tian used such a barrier. It seemed like his skills were mainly rage-type skills, so the damage was probably not low. At this moment, Xing Tian made his move. Waving his huge battle axe, he slashed towards Lu Chen. Dismemberment slash. Xing Tian's strength was extremely high, and his speed was beyond everyone's imagination. Dismemberment slash's font was red. Lu Chen had already realized that physical damage skills were too common in Grade 4, so there was a special prompt. The red font represented physical damage skills. His first move was a physical damage skill, and it was a killing move. Unfortunately, you're a melee fighter. War got possession. Demon transformation. Lu Chen grabbed the limitless demon sword and advanced instead of retreating. 3,000 body flicker slash. Leaving behind an afterimage, Lu Chen had already turned into a gray shadow and slashed out 11 combo attacks. However, in the eyes of others, this was not an 11 combo attack. A normal attack of 5 combo attacks, plus 10 poisons, 15 segments of damage. 11 combo attacks was 165 segments of damage. In less than 3 seconds, countless damage values floated up from Xing Tian's gigantic body. Although Xing Tian was not pure meat stew, he still had 380 million HP. However, after the 3,000 body flicker slash, Xing Tian's huge body slowly fell to one side. Xing Tian, who had 380 million HP, was instantly killed. The entire arena was silent for a moment. Chapter 559. Kill the battle spirit first before fighting a spirit controller? This was definitely a wrong example. Unless you could kill the battle spirit instantly. Jiu Ling was completely petrified, and his not-so-big eyes widened to their widest. My Xing Tian was killed instantly. In the arena, all the immortal pinnacle sect disciples, be it the outer sect, inner sect, or were pale. The disciples from the other sects who were watching the battle felt as if their hearts had been punched. Am I right? That outer sect disciple killed Xing Tian instantly? Oh my god, what's with that guy's damage? That's too perverted. Is he really an outer sect disciple? Not to mention the disciples. Even the sect masters and elders who were clamoring on the rostrum turned pale with fright. Even they couldn't insta-kill Xing Tian. A damage of nearly 400 million per second was simply a joke. Impossible. It's impossible to have such terrifying damage. I don't believe it. Nantian was also stunned. He hurriedly grabbed an elder behind him and asked, "Does our sect have such a disciple?" Coincidentally, the elder that Nantian grabbed was the one who recruited Lu Chen. "Sect Master, I remember now. I remember now." "Remember what?" "I'm the one who summoned him. That day, he punched the testing stone and dealt 31 million damage." "What? 31 million per punch? Why didn't you say so earlier? Why did you put him in the outer sect?" "Sect Master, at that time we all thought that it was his most powerful attack. At that time, he also dawdled and didn't continue to attack, so I calculated the result based on 31 million damage." Nantian didn't blame this elder anymore. Just think about it. If he was the one who tested it back then, he would probably think the same thing. 31 million is indeed a good result, but compared to the damage he dealt just now, he was just messing around during the test. In the arena, Liu Chun teleported to Jiu Li with a triple door. I've seen Xing Tian, and it's not that interesting. As for Qi Yu, forget it, I don't want to see it anymore. It probably won't be that strong in your hands. Jiu Li suffered another critical blow. That person obviously hadn't used his true strength yet. He didn't think that he needed to summon Qi Yu, but now the other party had lost his patience. Liu Chen only had physical damage skills when he was in the 6 transformations of the demonic and divine transformation. However, he had already said that if anyone used physical damage skills on him, he would return the favor. There was only one way left. Furball. A cute little furball jumped out of Liu Chen's hand and squeaked twice. Its body instantly expanded and pounced towards Jiu Li like lightning. A feast. With a blood-curdling scream, Jiu Li's arm was bitten off. The scene became abnormally bloody. The furball stared at Jiu Li and bit him. The damage to Jiu Li's body decreased rapidly. The elders below the stage were prepared to hold back the elder of the extreme immortal sect, but when they saw this scene, they were dumbfounded. What kind of battle pet is that? Was he crazy? It's going to eat Julie alive. Not long after, Julie was already lying on the ground, unable to move. His body was covered in blood. Liu Chen looked at him and said calmly, "Furball, come back." In an instant, Jiu Li, one of the top 3 warriors of the Azure Cloud sect, was lying on the ground like a pile of mud. No one knew if he was dead or alive. The 60 contestants who were eager to give it a try could not help but shudder with fear and trepidation. Not only was this guy unbelievably powerful, but he was also vicious. How horrifying! Even his battle pet was so terrifying. The way it fought was different from the usual battle pets. It would pounce on people and tear them apart. The feeling of watching their own limbs being chewed up by that huge rat was too horrifying. Brother Wrist and the others were dumbfounded. *T. Now that I think about it, our boss went easy on us. That Jiuli is so pitiful. It's a good thing that we admitted defeat. If we angered our boss, we would have been tortured to death. I didn't know that our boss was so powerful. I used to be a bit unconvinced, but now I don't dare to be disloyal. The only one who was still calm was Liu Chun. He patted Furball. After the transformation, Furball seemed to be more bloodthirsty. Also, Furball had more combat experience as it fought with him. Speaking of which, it was a good thing that he met this guy early. If he had met it now, it would have been troublesome to subdue it. Putting away Furball, Liu Chun looked at the masters of the major sections. Who's next? 58 people. All of them took a step back in unison. Only one was still in a daze. By the time he realized it, it was too late. "Come on, hurry up," Liu Chun said with a smile. That person looked at Liu Chen's kind smile. He didn't feel close at all. This was definitely a sinister smile. He might be killed soon. "Hurry up. I still have 59 matches to fight." Liu Chen frowned. That person had no choice but to step forward. Before the fight started, that person cupped his fist to Liu Chen. "Hello, Senior." Senior? Liu Chen was a little confused. He seemed to have just arrived at the 4th celestial layer. Moreover, he was only an outer disciple of a small sect. It seemed a little inappropriate for him to be called Senior. Senior, this is a martial art competition. How about we stop when it's appropriate? Stop when it's appropriate? Yes, it's a martial arts competition. It's not a duel. Of course we stop when it's appropriate. Liu Chun thought about it. It seemed to make sense. Senior, you said before that if others used physical damage skills, you would also use physical damage. If others don't use it, you won't use it either? Liu Chen nodded. Yes, I've always been like this. I'll treat others the same way they treat me. Great, that person said excitedly. He felt better. Cough, cough. I don't think I'll use physical damage skills. Then I'll let Furball rest. Okay, Senior, be careful. I'm coming. Brother Wrist held his forehead. The brother opposite him was actually so cowardly. He first agreed not to use physical damage and stop when it's appropriate. Only then did he dare to attack. Boss's deterrence is too strong. Who in the 4th celestial layer didn't fight their way up? In the end, that guy actually cowered before the battle. Is it worth it? Nonsense. It's easy for you to say that. Did you see Julie? His strength was probably in the top 5. Now, he's a pile of mud. You make it sound so easy. If you're so good, why don't you go and fight him? Julie's defeat isn't the most shocking thing. The key is that he died so miserably. Xing Tian was killed instantly. He didn't even have time to release Qiyu before he was bitten into a human stick. Who wouldn't cower after seeing that? Our boss is really strong. Now that I think about it, we've profited from being his underlings. That makes sense. Boss is so strong. In the future, we'll also be his underlings. The group suddenly realized that being his underlings for a month and a half was not a loss. Some people had already started to proudly introduce themselves to others. Hey, that's my boss. My boss is strong, right? I knew that long ago. Otherwise, why would I casually acknowledge him as my boss? Remember, my boss is the strongest outer disciple in history. Chapter 560. With Lu Qin's strength, he was on a completely different level compared to these disciples. With the successful example of don't overdo it, the people below all followed the same pattern and came up with 3 rules. No physical attacks. That's enough. Don't release little fur ball. Senior. I'm Su Chu from Yinhu sect. I saw Senior fighting with Senior from Immortal Sword sect. I have something I don't understand and would like to ask Senior for guidance. Lu Chun shook his head. What was the meaning of this? Wasn't this a martial arts competition? These people were getting more and more overboard. They actually wanted to learn the moves for free. However, one wouldn't hit a smiling person. Since they were asking for guidance, he didn't want to beat them up. Sai, then tell me, Senior, just now, Immortal Sword Sect Senior used the Sacred Sword Barrier to seal Senior's movement technique, then used the 72 sword techniques to seal Senior's retreat. Finally, he used the killer move Heaven Splitting Sword to attack. How did you manage to dodge and kill Immortal Sword Sect Senior? Lu Chen recalled and said, It's not as incredible as you said. The 72 sword techniques were relatively weak. I used my strongest bow to delay the speed of 2 of the 72 sword techniques, and a loophole appeared in the entire system. In less than half a second, I was able to use the combination of the triple gate to split Mao Hua and control the opponent, completely stopping him from continuing to control the 72 sword techniques and Heaven Splitting Sword. Finally, I managed to dodge and kill him at close range. Of course, the positioning during the process is very important. At the beginning, you have to pretend to retreat and lure the 72 sword techniques to chase after you. Then, you have to continuously shoot arrows to create an opening, dodge, and counterattack in one go. You can't give the opponent too much time to react. So the initial retreat was to lure the 72 sword techniques. Senior can still maintain a clear mind in the fierce battle and lead the opponent's thoughts. I'm impressed. Lu Chen was also depressed. If it was a martial arts competition, then it was a martial arts competition. Why did they have to ask for advice? This group of people didn't play by the rules. The competition was still going on, but the nature of it had changed. This group of people seemed to have grasped Lu Chen's temper. If you were polite to him, he wouldn't make things difficult for you. If you provoked him from the start, then the outcome of Jiu Li was the best example. After more than 3 hours, the 60 experts from various sects were all defeated without exception. Lu Chun heaved a long sigh of relief. It was finally settled. Is there anyone else who wants to challenge me? Lu Chen looked below the stage. Now, how could any disciple dare to challenge Lu Chun? The audience was silent. Lu Chen nodded and looked at Elder Chen Shi. Then the extreme immortal sect shouldn't be merged, right? Only then did Elder Chen Shi return to his senses. Since we've already agreed that you've won, there's no need for you to be merged. Lu Chen nodded and jumped off the stage to leave. Wait! Suddenly, someone called out to Lu Chen. Please wait. Lu Chen looked back and saw that Elder Chen Shi had already teleported to the arena. Excuse me, what's your name? Solipsistic. Solipsistic. How arrogant. Elder Chen Shi seemed to be talking to himself as he savored this guy's ID. Indeed, this guy lived up to his name. All right, Little brother, are you willing to join the immortal army? With your strength, it's enough to join the immortal army and fight against the enemies with us. Lu Chun shook his head. I've just reached the 4th layer, and you want me to go to war? I don't want to go now. Wait until my strength increases. Increase your strength? You can still increase your strength? Lu Chun frowned. Elder Chun Shi, what are you saying? Why can't I increase my strength? It's not that. Elder Chun Shi smiled apologetically. What I mean is that you're already very strong. How can you increase your strength as an outer disciple of the extreme immortal sect? At this moment, the sect leader of the Immortal Sword sect rushed to the arena. Little brother, we become friends after fighting. Elder Chun, she is right. How can you increase your strength as an outer disciple? If you're interested in joining our Immortal Sword sect, we'll definitely give you resources and prioritize your development. The sect leader of the Sunset sect wasn't happy as she rushed to the arena. Little brother, although our Sunset sect only accepts female disciples, and our sect is filled with beautiful women, we're willing to make an exception and accept you. As long as you're willing, we'll definitely not let you be an outer disciple. This Sunset sect leader seemed to still have her charm. Just now, the Sunset sect did have a few beautiful girls. At this moment, Lu Chen's heart was moved. Which part of your sect is filled with beauties? Hearing Lu Chen's reply, the Sunset sect leader beamed with joy. She was especially enthusiastic. They're definitely all beauties. Little brother, if you're still single, let me tell you, our sect's disciples are especially passionate. Also, you know that everyone usually sees senior and junior sisters. If there's a junior brother, everyone will definitely dote on you. This condition was very tempting. Little brother, just now, when you were fighting with Julie, I saw that you were being lenient. The sect leader of the Blue Cloud sect could no longer sit still as he squeezed out from the crowd. Right now, our Blue Cloud sect is planning to implement a plan to focus on supporting disciples. We plan to nurture a few of the strongest disciples. If you join us, this spot will definitely be yours. Everyone! A low shout interrupted the crowd. He's a disciple of our Immortal Peak sect. I'm still here, and you guys are trying to recruit him in front of me. Aren't you going a bit overboard? The person who came was the sect leader of the Immortal Peak sect, Nantion. He squeezed in with great difficulty and quickly walked to Lu Chen's side. Little brother Du Quang, since you're willing to fight for our Immortal Peak sect, it means that you still have some feelings for our sect, right? Lu Chen blinked his eyes. Actually, he didn't have any feelings. He only had feelings for his sect. However, Nantion had just been betrayed by his disciple. Moreover, from the rules of the Immortal Peak sect, Nantion should be a good person. Lu Chen thought for a moment and reluctantly nodded. Nantion let out a sigh of relief. Everyone, little brother Du Quang is a disciple of our Immortal Peak sect. I can understand your love for talent. However, this is our Immortal Peak sect, after all. Please conduct yourselves with dignity. After all, this was the territory of the Immortal Peak sect. Moreover, Nanshan's personal strength wasn't weak. The other sect leaders knew that they were in the wrong and could only shut up. No one would have thought that the outcome of the battle of Immortal Peak sect would be changed by an outer disciple with his own strength. The Immortal Peak sect wasn't annexed. In the inner mountain of the Immortal Peak sect, Nantion personally brewed a cup of tea for Lu Chen. In view of Lu Chen's strength, this guy obviously came to the Immortal Peak sect to relax. Sect leader Nantion also knew that although he was a disciple of the Immortal Peak sect, he didn't have the qualifications to put on the airs of a sect leader in front of him. He had to call Lu Chen little brother Du Quang. Little brother Du Quang, thank you for your help this time. Otherwise, I would have been too frustrated. Lu Chen smiled faintly. Sect leader is too serious. No matter what, I am still a disciple of the Immortal Peak sect. Little brother Du Quang, I don't dare to accept your praise. However, why did you come to the Immortal Peak sect? I just arrived at the 4th heaven. Coincidentally, the territory of the Immortal Peak sect was nearby, so I joined the Immortal Peak sect. Lu Chen took a sip of tea. So that's how it is. However, in the end, little brother Du Quang chose to stay in the Immortal Peak sect. Nantion seemed to have made an important decision as he said, However, after today's matter, it is reasonable to say that we should be like the other sects and concentrate our resources to nurture experts. However, after thinking about it carefully, the rules of the Immortal Peaks sect might not change. Little brother Du Quang, when the other sect leaders were fighting over you, I was too excited to let you stay. However, after thinking about it carefully, an expert like you might develop better if you enter their sect. If you want to leave, I believe that any of the other sects would still fight over you. Lu Chun looked at Nantian in surprise. This guy was actually so stubborn. He still wanted to stick to his principles. However, this kind of stubbornness reminded Lu Chun of an old friend's words. Don't forget your original intentions. Only then can you achieve success. Perhaps, in the future, this person would be the key to changing the predicament of the human race. Chapter 561. Nan Tian did not change his principles because of Lu Chun. This made Lu Chun think highly of him. After interacting with many Jiuqian people, Lu Chun realized that everyone here had their own ideals and dreams. This made him feel that these people were living individuals. Lu Chun smiled faintly. You are the sect master. You have a final say. Nan Tian was a little embarrassed. That, Brother Du Quang, which sect are you going to next? What do you mean by which sect? I'll just continue to be an outer disciple. You're not leaving? Even the Sunset sect invited you. I've never seen them invite a male disciple before. Lu Chun frowned. Although the female disciples they invited are not bad, they aren't particularly stunning. The powerful ones might not be the most beautiful ones. Lu Chun sized up Nantian. I say, sect master, is it appropriate for a sect master like you to stare at the female disciples of other sects all day long? Hey, Brother Du Quang, don't make fun of me. I'm just afraid that you'll change your mind. Don't worry. I've seen many beauties. I won't be unable to walk because of them. That's great. If that's the case, being an outer disciple is not suitable for Brother Du Quang. How about you become an elder of the extreme immortal sect? You can protect the extreme immortal sect with your own strength. Even if I give the sect master position to you, no one will say anything. Sect master, don't scare me. I'm used to being a free person. Being an outer disciple is enough. I'll just get some resources. An elder also has to teach me. I can't stand being taught any combat experience. Being the sect master is even more troublesome. Please don't give it to me. Brother Lone Quang, you should stop calling me sect master. The Nine Heavens has always been a place where the strong are respected. During the competition, you did not even give it your all. The damage you caused had already reached such a frightening degree. Brother Lone Quang, I can no longer accept you calling me Brother Southern Heaven. Lu Chen smiled. Others looked at strength, but he never looked at it. The feeling Nintian gave him was that he was a person who stuck to his principles. Moreover, Lu Chen also supported his point of view. This was the real reason why he was willing to stay. When I make friends with people, I only look at their character, not their strength. How about this? I'll call you sect leader in front of others, but I'll call you Big Brother Nantian in private. How about that? Nantian looked at Lu Chun with some surprise. Solipsistic actually took the initiative to make friends with him. This was something he couldn't wait for. Sure. How about I call you Brother Lone Quang? All right. After returning from the inner mountains, Lu Chun saw a large group of people gathered around his residence from afar. These were all outer sect disciples of the extreme immortal sect. They surrounded Lu Chen's small wooden hut with 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. Why hasn't Senior Du Quang returned yet? I don't know. Could it be that he was directly promoted to an inner disciple? That's very likely. Did you see the situation at that time? All the sect leaders of the major sects were fighting over him. Even the Sunset sect had spoken up. Entering the Sunset sect is my ultimate dream. When Brother Wrist and the others saw the dumbfounded Lu Chun, they hurriedly rushed over and surrounded Lu Chun to protect him. Everyone make way. My big brother is back. Big brother, slow down. Lu Chun was also speechless. These guys were only supposed to help him with his daily missions. How come they were now part-time bodyguards? Applause rang out from the crowd. Mad God, it's all thanks to you that the extreme immortal sect was saved. The Mad God slaughtered 60 top-notch experts and helped our extreme immortal sect vent our anger. Thank you, Mad God, for your help. Mad God, are you leaving the outer sect? Liu Chun shook his head. I won't be leaving for the time being. Y'all can go back. I want to rest. You won't leave? Mad God, are you still going to stay here? Brother Wrist hurriedly gathered his men. Don't ask, don't ask. If the boss says he won't leave, then he won't leave. Let's disperse. The boss wants to rest. Yes, let's disperse. Mad God fought 60 rounds. He must be tired. Under the urging of a group of people, the disciples who had gathered here dispersed. After finally having some peace and quiet, Liu Chun returned to his room. Brother Wrist helped Liu Chun pour water and move a chair, working especially hard. Liu Chun rolled his eyes at him and chased him away with his original big brothers. Finally, the world was quiet. Little Green, come out and take a look. After leaving the sect master's courtyard, the first place Liu Chun went to was the sect contribution exchange store. There were many items in the sect's exchange store. They were more complete than the Third Heaven Quartermaster's items, and their grades were also higher. Among them, there was a spirit condensing pill that increased spiritual energy by 100 points. Its effect was far inferior to the immortal spirit pill, but cost 3,000 contribution points. Liu Chun worked hard for a month and a half, but he could only get 6 spirit condensing pills that increased spiritual energy by 600 points. In the end, Liu Chun couldn't bear to directly exchange for pills. Instead, he exchanged for materials for the spirit condensing pill. One set of materials cost 600 contribution points. It required an 8th rank medicine refiner to refine, and the success rate was only 30%. I didn't expect a pill that increased spiritual energy to be so expensive. It's 10 times more expensive than a third-dimension medicine refiner. Little Green, can you make a spirit condensing pill with these materials? Boss, no problem. But the success rate isn't very high. How much? About 60% success rate. 60% is already very good. Even if it's only 50%, 2 sets of materials can refine a spirit condensing pill. In other words, I only need 1,200 contribution points to get one. It's already more cost-effective than exchanging directly. It's good to have Little Green. Louie was a bit embarrassed to be praised by her boss. She lowered her head and smiled. It's a pity that I didn't see the materials for the immortal spirit pill. Louie thought for a moment and said, Boss, maybe the materials for the immortal spirit pill can't be bought. How can such precious materials be supplied without limit? I think we might have to gather them ourselves. Also, they can only be gathered in certain special places. Lucha nodded. It's possible. The quartermaster didn't have them. I thought you would have to reach the 4th heaven to get them. I just asked Nantion, and he said that regardless of the size of the sect, the items exchanged are the same. In other words, if the Limitless Sect shop doesn't have them, the other sects won't have them either. The spirit condensing pill adds 2 little spiritual energy. Even if I exchange for one every 2 days, if I want to increase my spiritual energy to 100,000 points, I'll have to eat 270 pills. That's, 540 days. Boss, maybe after my alchemy level increases, the success rate will be higher. Liu Chun shook his head. That's not your problem. Even if you have a 100% success rate, you'll still need 270 days. That's too long. Also, the price of the attributes and items is even higher. That's a bottomless pit. Then what do we do? Louis asked. Liu Chun thought for a moment and said, if we rely on the daily quests, the sect contributions won't be shown. We have to do some quests with more sect contributions. Boss, are you going to participate in the arena? Not going. What's the point of competing with these kids? Also, the first place only earns 100 sect contributions. It's not interesting. Liu Chun rubbed his chin. Old brother Nantion said that there's a joint sect exploration quest. That quest gives the most sect contributions. It's led by several sect elders to explore the barren land. The larger the area explored, The higher the sec contribution points, and the more sec contributions the explorers receive. Okay, let's go. Lu Yi was looking forward to it. It's been a long time since we went out. We've been in the fourth heaven for so long, but we still haven't left this place. Lu Chen smiled. It seemed that Little Green was also holding back. I also want to go, but Nantian said the mortality rate is over 70%. He told me to be careful. Speaking of this matter, Lu Chen frowned. The mortality rate was over 70%. This number was not a joke. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.